reports after survivors were found hiding in weeds, fearing further attacks. Now, arrangements for the repatriation of a Kenyan police officer fatally shot in Haiti during a security operation have been finalized, with the body expected to arrive in Kenya between the 4th and 6th of this month. Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja confirmed that all logistical preparations are being completed and that transportation will begin on the 4th. Speaking during a service at the officer's family home in Nasiriani, East Kajiado, Kanja assured mourners that the government is providing full support to the bereaved family. And President William Ruto has assured Kenyans that the Social Health Authority, a key pillar of the government's universal healthcare program, will overcome its initial challenges. He acknowledged that previous administrations struggled with similar efforts but expressed confidence that his government would deliver universal health coverage. However, he cautioned that resolving all the implementation issues would take time due to the program's scale. And President William Ruto as well electrified the congregation at a church in Roysambu by announcing a 20 million shillings donation to support the church's construction. Addressing critics of his frequent church donations, Ruto reaffirmed his commitment to giving the religious causes. He also promised an additional contribution during an upcoming fundraiser for the project, a move that has irked his opponents, who say that the president should stick to his word that he would stop giving to the church. Now, tragedy struck at a popular park and chill spot off Thika Road in Ugotha, Juja sub-county, when two university students drowned during a fun outing. Now, the area, known for its scenic dam, has become a hotspot for leisure seekers but poses risks due to its sloping terrain. A police report hinted that the deceased had gone swimming before the fatal incident. And Deputy President Kithure Kindiki has retweeted that President William Ruto's administration is prepared to face the consequences of its controversial policy decisions. Speaking in Windhoek, Namibia, during a meeting with Kenyans in the diaspora, Kindiki emphasized the government's commitment to reforming critical sectors, even if it means adopting unpopular measures. He highlighted planned interventions in micro, small and medium enterprises, agriculture, livestock, fisheries and mining as key areas for economic revival. Tomorrow Sports and Shabana FC ended their 4-match winless streak in style, thrashing Kakamega Homeboys 4-1 at a packed Gusii Stadium. Now, Elvis Osok opened the scoring in the 32nd minute before new signing Oscar Juma doubled the lead in the 65th minute. Juma struck again 11 minutes later, securing a brace. Brian Mishira sealed the emphatic victory in the 86th minute, leaving the visitors with a no chance of victory. Kakamega Homeboys managed a late consolation goal through Henry Omolo, but it was too late. Kenya Lionesses triumphed in the HSBC Challenger Series, defeating Argentina 17-12 in a thrilling final at Athlone Stadium Sunday evening. Now, Judith Okumu delivered a standard performance, scoring 2 tries, while Grace Okulu also crossed the whitewash and excelled in her kicking duties. To reach the final, Kenya overcame host South Africa 1915 in a hard-fought semi-final, with Naomi Amungoni, Sharon Auma and Frecia Odor each combining a try. Congratulations to the Kenya Lionesses for flying Kenya's flag high. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis. I'll say good morning.
It's the 3rd of March, and we're getting into the Ides of March, as it were. And here we are this morning at 8 minutes after 6 o'clock into Kenya's biggest conversation, the first one of the month of March. Good morning, Anki.
Good morning, Dew. How are you?
My heart is beating. That's a good place to start.
Yeah.
We'll see about the rest later.
That's for sure. I'm fine. Like you said, I mean, it's a good month for me. It's my birthday month.
Oh, there you go.
So I'm really excited
You're
for the days to come.
16.
Yeah. Girls never grow older than that, do we?
Well, I happen to like 22, but okay.
Oh, do you know my favorite age? 9.
9.
Yes.
Okay, what did you do at 9?
I was inquisitive, innocent, but really, I was, just very accommodative.
So you're no longer those things?
No, I'm not.
You're no longer innocent.
I'm not innocent.
You're no longer inquisitive.
I am inquisitive,
you're no longer
but now with a bit of objectivity. I think when you're 9, you're just inquisitive.
Okay.
You're not thinking, oh, this might go that way. Right now, you have like a reason to ask a question. You're trying to figure out something. You're interested, not just inquisitive. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good thing, though.
Indeed, it is a very good thing. So at some point this morning, I saw CT.
Oh, yeah. I saw him too.
Yeah. So he'll join us in a bit. And there he is in all his glory, walking through in a check blue shirt and jungle green jacket, something. CT, good morning.
Hi, Ndo.
How are you?
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's very well. I can see your fine-tuning. You're talking behind someone's back.
Yeah. Talking behind your back,
along?
then you come and talk in front of your face.
How is that coming along?
It's splendidly.
I'm happy to hear that. It's always good in the presence of people who talk behind your back.
Absolutely.
Anki told us it's her birthday month.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's also yours.
No, it's not.
Is it? No, it's not.
Don't listen to what this person tells you.
I shouldn't trust her.
No, you should trust her by all means.
But what? No, don't listen to her?
You talking about my birthday. Whose birthday is it, mine or hers? Who would know when it is my birthday, her or myself?
Okay, it's not his birthday then.
I didn't say today is his birthday. I said birthday month.
But he said that I shouldn't listen to you.
Okay, all this propaganda. No wala. It's okay. You
Actually,
are fine?
let me change that tune. Listen to her by all means.
Nah, you shall not confuse me. I will bear my own and I will choose when to listen.
You will find out the information.
I will find out.
That is where I wanted you to actually land. And thank you for landing.
Muko salama lakini?
Salmin.
Kabisa. Na wewe iko namna gani?
Iko salama mimi pia.
Kenya napeleka wewe namna gani?
We, kama gari ya miraa, my friends.
Kama gari ya miraa.
It's chap. It's quick.
That thing is not quick. That thing flies.
It's not quick. It's crazy. The things that are going on. Even when you thought over the weekend that you would take a break and say, okay, let's see what Monday has to offer. 1.3 trillion shillings in 7 months. Douche. Then next, we are not 20 million. 100 million. You guys. Hey, look at, before you know, we're in Mombasa. We are coming back this week. We'll explain. We'll announce.
I still remember the time when we were borrowing the Euro bond. And the arithmetic was done. And one Kenyan said, it is okay. Just give me my share.
Just give me my own. I find my way.
Yeah, because I know I'm going to have to pay for it. So just my mind, just divide, do the maths. So we know how many we are. Give me mine.
Let me know.
Let me sort out.
Yeah. Let me at least financially budget for my what I'm supposed to pay and what I'm supposed to use.
Crazy. I'm telling you. Well, that's where we live. That's what we are currently doing. Someone will say, can you stop the train so that I can get off? And the rest of you can keep going where you're going. Okay, so a couple of conversations that we have lined up. Did I say good morning to everybody? Good morning properly to you as you're already clicking into the room this morning. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. It starts out for March. It's going to be a wild ride, so buckle up. A number of conversations that we have lined up for today. Let me tell you what some of those are. In the 7 a.m. hour, I beg your pardon, am I blind?
I think you're doing just fine.
No, I'm not blind. I'm not where I should be. Voila.
Okay.
Aki Edna reads my mind in a way that... Edna! At 7 a.m., The registrar of political parties is called Anne Derrito. She'll join us at that hour, and we'll be talking about keeping check of political parties. So many things have been said, not said, who belongs where, who's lining up, who can do what color, who can do whatever. Look, that conversation will be had with us at 7 o'clock. Anne Derrito will be in the hot seat. And then at 8 o'clock, the Member of Parliament for Kiamba constituency is John Juguna Kawanjiko. Is the mountain divided? Is there a mountain? Is it flat? Is it now a valley? We don't know. We'll have a talk about that at 8 o'clock with the good MP. And then finally at 9 o'clock, are Kenyan doctors ready to start to prescribe medical cannabis?
Mm-hmm.
Puff, puff, puff. Dr. David Okello and Mutua Mutuku will join us. A lawyer and a healthcare professional will be our guests at 9 a.m. It's been a conversation that has been in, community for a very long time. There are some countries that have already embraced it, and I don't think there's doubt in terms of what cannabis can do for pain management. The question is, are doctors at the point where they're ready to start to prescribe it and its use? So those are some of the conversations that we'll be having this morning, and always ready to have you with us as we do. It is almost getting to 6 o'clock, and Veto FX is reminding you as you get into business this morning and get about the things that you and your small, medium or large businesses will do, that cross-border payments and their pain are a thing of the past with Veto. You don't have to worry about how can I change my shillings to yen or shillings to South African rand. Well, on the platform you can do all that at around 49 different currencies in 190 plus countries around the world. You don't have to worry about hidden costs or high costs for that matter. You don't have to worry about that. The downtime to getting payments done will be days on end. Quick, fast and affordable, as well as sustainable. Veto FX. Find out more information about this on www.vetofx.com. Sawa. All right, so saying good morning to you this morning. I know that quite a number of you have already started to click in on our YouTube, on Facebook and on X. Thank you for always clicking in when you do. We say good morning to you. Greetings from Dayton in Minnesota, says Cyprian Kambuni. R says Tupo. Then we say Tupo. Abi?
Tupo.
But he has said Tupo.
Maybe you asked. Maybe it's just saying they're here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
we are here.
They're present.
What he's saying.
Yes.
Voila. Okay. Okay. Don is already giving me work this morning. Don, good morning. You say to ask CT, has the economy felt the reduction of bank lending rates? CT, have you felt the reduction of land banking rates?
It doesn't happen overnight.
Okay.
Yes. So let him ask this question at the end of this month, and then one will probably be able to give an answer that is informed.
Okay. In Malawi, he says, lending, we say kubwereketsa. Then he's called somebody called Janet. I don't know who Janet is, to say kubwereketsa. Then he's gone on to say, good morning, CT and Anki. Anki, say kubwereketsa. Very good. You're a very good student. Happy new month, CT Ndu and Auntie Anki Akinyi.
Appreciated.
Edna, did you receive my message through CT? All of us have a blessed week ahead, shall we? Edna, oublie pas de message. Good morning. Tuning from Mombassa's Robert Mbogo. Hello, Princess Ndu. Good morning, Leo, CT and Doris. Nchia Jabu can afford to give churches millions, but nothing for kids learning under trees in dilapidated classrooms with no learning infrastructure. Don't even get me started this morning because, wow. Finally, it's been accepted that there are some challenges in Shah. It was interesting because yesterday, even during church service, we saw the good Senator Dr. Boni Khalwale speak directly to the CS Ministry of Health and say, come on, chick, we need to fix this thing. It's a good idea, but we need to fix it. It ain't working.
And the same Boni Halwale was very open with former CS Nahuminsha. I remember in the Senate then just telling her, yo, put your house in order. This
one is not working the way it is. Yeah, even as we want to support government for real, we have to just admit that there's a problem here. Greetings from 16-degree chilly Doha. Good morning, team, says Nyadi Chukunzira. Good morning to you. Good morning, March. Blessings upon us all. Edna is wearing a red dress. I cannot let it go. She wants me to keep quiet, but I can't. In all her splendor, here she is just next to me. Oh, they're not showing me. They can't see me. Oh, man. Okay. Good morning, Spice team. Happy new month of March. Donation 20 million, 100 million, more to follow. Bah, bah, bah. Good morning, Mashari and Jeru, to you. Good morning from Doha, says Benedito. Good morning to you. Please ask his CT the history of Kengeleni in Mombasa. C'est quoi, Kengeleni?
Yes, Kengeleni, as you leave the bridge, the Nyali Bridge, you will come to a traffic light. Mm-hmm. On the left, there is a huge church.
Yes.
Yes, it's an Anglican church.
I've seen it, yeah.
Historical.
Yes.
Kengeleni, there was a bell on the right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that whole area, at some point or the other, on both sides of the road, was actually owned by the Anglican church. Mm-hmm. That bell was ensconced right there on your right. I don't know where the bell went over time. It is why that place was called Kengeleni.
Oh,
now, the issue here is, and this is homework, not for myself, what is the history of that bell? What was the purpose of that bell? Mm-hmm. Remember, when you talk about that church, you talk about that particular part of, you also talk about a place called Freetown. This is where slaves who had been released were taken to. Freetown, Freetown, okay? So there's a whole history of the Anglican Church right there. So a little homework for those who do not understand that bell had a purpose. So that place is called Kengeleni because of the
bell.
Kengele.
Yeah, yes. Okay. For whom the bell tolls. Well, I'm going to go look up that and see what it's all about.
Yes.
Same here.
Amesa Asava says, good morning, great team. I can see you're all up and about, but can't hear a word from your side. What's up with sound today? Can you hear me now? Good morning. Let me drop a shameless ad. What do you mean? You want Danton Omari to be Senator 2027? Of where? Of what? Chamgay, my beautiful people, says Ann Gore. Greeting you from a beautiful city of Nairobi to Nakupenda Pia. Good morning, Spice, all the way from Kilifi South. Happy new month, says Mecha Franklin. We have a problem with our priorities. Church over health. Dang, I know. Atiak in Uganda is where Hisa Daniel is tuned in from. Salamu from North Coast. Kilifi, says John Monyoncho. Carol Nyambura Pia Natupenda. I'm telling you, it's a good thing to be loved. Happy new month, my people. Indeed, to you too, Anne. Good morning, Team Spice, tuning from Houston, Texas. Good morning from Hong Kong, says Robinson. Good morning, Ndu City Anki. Such a lovely morning smile. Finally, one has acknowledged that Shashif has a problem. Indeed. Salak says, hola, Spice family. Let's continue with a great conversation. Happy new month, says Margaret Wanjohi. Good morning to you. Eunice Okello is also tuned in this morning. And Eric Ward says, good morning, guys. Morris and Dati, good morning and happy new month. Mama J says, good morning. Kenyans have 66K to watch. Yeah, Burna Boy, it's true, because that concert, look, it was an amazing concert. I think he outperformed. He did very well. The truth is that the tickets were quite a pretty penny, and the place was packed. So, go figure. Martino says, Anne Dorito of political parties is a UADA official. Is she now? Well, Goal says, hey, hi to my girlfriend, Helen Nyawira. Really? Good morning, Helen. Shadrach David says, good morning from Mombasa. Tuning from Kilifi South. Folks tuning from Kilifi this morning. The political landscape in the country is interesting. Yes, it is. Free Spirit says, good morning. Georgia Koth, we see you. Ndu, I was impressed by your mastery of Swahili. Thank you very much. I'm telling you, it was not easy, but hey, we move. Chef says, good morning, Team Spice. A good start in the Situation Room. Thanks for always being here. Sammy Kyoko is tuned in and says, the biggest morning show on planet Earth. If you had 20 million shillings to build a church and fund schools, which would you choose? As though that were difficult to figure out, but yeah. Good morning, Spice community. All set for the show. Thank you, John. Always great to have you here in the room. Back here. Try the other side, but I'm back. Eliana Yabesh, we see you. Good morning, everyone. Wish you a blessed new month. And indeed, to all my Muslim brothers and sisters, Ramadan Kareem. Chef, also Wilfred Odhiambo is here this morning. And Willie Kitala says, with change of time nowadays, that place Kelengeni is called Lights.
Oh, the lights in Mombasa.
Yeah.
It's actually a stage. Nashuka Hapo lights.
Actually, the traffic lights are right there.
Ah.
Yeah. Okay. It's always great to hear these things. And I just love history and it's how it's married with modern day and trying to make the connections. And I think it's quite impressive, CT, that anybody can ask you anything and you have the answer.
Yeah, real quick.
I grew up in Mombasa.
It's still,
but everywhere around
Mombasa
the world.
It's not just one example. There are many examples. So
all the way to Mali.
This is me celebrating you this morning, so just take it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I thought you were, I thought.
So now you know where we are.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well done. So now, where are we this week and what's our problem for today?
We are in the land of honest people. Which country is this, Anki?
Burkina Faso.
It is actually. Who gave this country that name?
Not Wamunyoro, sorry.
Oh, Lord.
Your humor is splendid. Let's give it another go, shall we?
All right.
Who gave the country that name?
Oh, you were asking a question.
I did ask a question.
I need to click into reality, don't I? Who gave Burkina Faso its name in terms of the country or the person?
The person who brought about that name, Burkina Faso. Who was it?
Je ne sais pas.
Yes, you do know.
I know the person.
Yes, you do. The year was 1984. And he led a coup in 1983. His name was Thomas Sankara.
The president?
Jeez.
Did he serve as a president?
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. Of course I know.
You did. I know you know. That's why I said.
When you said the year was 1984, I just went to George Orwell. But okay.
No. I know. I did that deliberately to confuse you.
Jeez.
Yes.
Thomas Sankara.
Yes, Thomas Sankara. Yes.
Under the age of 30 years old.
Yes, and he was assassinated in 1987. Okay. The tragic thing about this country is just the number of coups it has had from the time it got independence. One after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other.
And even today, its present leader was brought in as a result of a coup.
Yes.
In fact, did they even participate in the AU elections?
No, they didn't because they're sanctioned.
AUC, no.
No, they didn't. But there's something that needs to be said about what Sankara did. He brought about nationwide literacy. This hadn't existed before. He brought about land distribution to peasants. People didn't have land. This is usually unpopular. This one causes problems in many countries because people who own land feel they own it. It's theirs. Why are you redistributing it? He vaccinated over 2 million children, meaning these children had not been vaccinated before. Railway road construction. And then, my friend, equal education rights for everybody. Now, the thing that he did, now this one, even me, I had to smile and say, hey, Thomas, Hapo.
Cheers.
Okay? He outlawed FGM, forced marriages, and polygamy.
Wow.
Did the outlaw remain until present day?
I'm just saying.
Powerful.
Changes upon changes upon changes upon changes. But the current interim leader, can someone tell me what his name is?
Traore, sir.
Ibrahim Traore. And he is as transformative as Sankara was. Doesn't talk much, but he has decided to make that country a breadbasket. And is doing it as we watch. As we watch. One prays that he will succeed. The proverb. If you look for trouble, you will not miss it.
Indeed. If you look for trouble, you will not miss it. Yes.
You need not worry.
Seek ye and thou shalt find.
You will find it.
That's very direct.
Oh, it's fairly direct, and proverbs sometimes need to be direct. So when they're direct, they're easy to understand and they're also easy to interpret. Yes. But the converse is also true.
Yeah.
If you don't look for trouble, then you will not.
You also will not find
you
it.
won't find it. Yes.
Most of the times, which ones do humans do?
We look for trouble.
Very true. Shall we look at the headlines?
Yes, please.
All right. On the front page of the Standard, Kenya's bold newspaper, Co-President Raila. The headline is a question. A political realignment is taking shape as ODM leader Raila Odinga nears a deal with President William Ruto. The agreement modelled after past power-sharing pacts could see Raila assume a non-executive prime minister role. Sources say plans are underway to prepare Harambee House, traditionally the seat of the presidency, for him. Oh my God. Okay. Let's move on to the next headline because I'm sure we'll look at this in detail. Kivwitu family in bitter feud over how to share wealth. Okay. 42 billion shillings, that's a number you might like. It's roads cash to pay contractors. So some of those pending bills that we talk about, people might actually be paid money. Well, it's being floated out there. We'll actually wait and see if that's a thing. Charity or playing politics, fundraisers make a comeback despite a state ban on public fundraisers. Remember
Yes.
that there was a state ban
Right.
on public fundraisers. President William Ruto, the number one statesman, and senior officials are back to making hefty church donations. President Ruto pledged 20 million shillings to a Nairobi church yesterday, vowing to give to God despite criticism. State ban. Anyway, the revival of fundraisers raises fresh concerns over transparency, accountability, and political influence in philanthropy. Ugandan army deploys to North DRC. It was interesting because we did have the conversation about General Muhoozi,
Yes.
Kainerugaba just over on Friday, and then over the weekend, the man went ham, especially on Kenyan men, and decided to say a number of cute things over the weekend.
Cute.
Well, cute is in quotes.
Yeah.
Probably giving rise to many of the statements that have been made recently about the state of his mental health. Okay. Yeah, so those are some of the headlines that we see. Why Ryla could be headed for PM position in new deal with Ruto. We'll look at that in just a minute. High Court hands firm a lifeline in a 1.6 billion shilling loan row. Chebukati, his election's legacy through the eyes of Kivuitu. I think this is very interesting. Two gentlemen who sat at the helm of the electoral body now unfortunately passed. And it's interesting that one is being seen through the eyes of another. It's interesting that church and family have asked politicians not to bring goons to a member of parliament's burial. Isn't it interesting that you actually have to ask, please, we are burying our loved one. Can you not make it a circus?
We implore you.
Surely that you have to ask, I think, is a major issue. Those are some of the headlines, and we'll look into some of those stories later as we also wait for some of the other papers. City, what you got?
The Star. Interesting, this Star thing, huh? It's very interesting. Lots of interesting things in the Star. Leadership has failed Kenyans. While the cost of most commodities have gone down, the cost of fuel, the cost of transportation hasn't. This is what is being said. State has no control over SHA. The audit said that 104 billion system that contains Kenyans' details is not really in their control.
Okay.
So in whose control is it? Then this one I found a bit ticklish in more ways than one. U.S. cash cut leaves sex workers high and dry.
You're going to have to repeat that.
I am going to repeat it. U.S. cash cuts leave sex workers high and dry. This is how the WHO statement has been interpreted. Okay? Yes, and bang. No.
Pole sana.
What follows is not a play of words. It's what I normally say when I'm referring to what is on the headlines. Bang in the middle of the paper.
If anything, I must thank you for making me laugh this morning.
Okay.
Wow, CT.
Bang in the middle of the paper. Going gets tough as food inflation drives up prices. Okay? The state statistician attributes the rise in costs of living to high food inflation costs, which rose by 6.4%. That is the Star. Okay.
Okay, please. Let's take a break. Let's take a break and look at traffic. We'll be back.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
partly cloudy. In Nairobi this morning, it's 15 degrees with sea highs of 29 and down to lows of 16. We're looking into a cloudy highs of 31 and lows of 13. 15 and cloudy here. Like 13, it's clear and Eldoret. Mombasa is sunny at 26 and we see sunny conditions at 27. It's clear at 20. 21 and mostly clear in Kampala, while in Dar es Salaam it's partly sunny at 27. We'll see highs of 32. Johannesburg at 17 is cloudy with highs of 22, while Mogadishu at 25 is partly sunny going to highs of 31. It's 14 and clear in Addis Ababa with highs of 25, while Lagos at 28 is partly cloudy. We'll see highs of 33. And into Kinshasa it's cloudy at 26 with highs of 33. Beijing going into Monday afternoon is cloudy at 6 degrees. It's 1 degree with temperatures dropping across Western Europe. In Paris at 1 degree going to highs of 12, while London is a haze at 1 degree. We'll see highs of 11. It's -5 and clear Sunday night in New York. Coming into Monday, highs of 0 and lows of -5. Okay, taking a look at what's happening with traffic this morning, just getting into it today. A little bit of movement that's already starting to come off of the Thika Superhighway today. A little bit of that as you head then towards the CBD. There is a bit of traffic also as you then come into the city via Ngong Road, and it's starting to look busy as well. There will see some traffic that will get heavier as you come in from Kasarani, just going back to the Thika Superhighway, coming in from that Royal interchange. Actually, well beyond that, quite some traffic just in from the interchange, and it looks like it's going to continue for some time, all the way past Kenyatta Avenue, getting towards the city. It looks fine on Limuru Road for now, and we're seeing some traffic also start to build coming off of Wayaki Way, and the Southern Bypass. Something's going on here. Just in there in the middle belt, there's some inbound traffic, also some outbound traffic just in there. There might be something cooking. You want to let us know what that is as we try to keep things moving this morning. Let's talk on SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, it's 25 minutes to 7 o'clock, and we're looking at some of the stories making headlines today. I mean, we can't run away from it because it's gotten, and the way to look at the story from my point of view is that it's already gotten some people into a tailspin, because why is it that we still do things the same way over and over and over again and expect that we'll have something different in terms of results? I mean, I have to speak to myself as well as an individual, and I say, you know what, you can sit here and lament about issues, but you're putting in the same ingredients. You put in eggs, flour, sugar, milk, you're gonna get a cake. You're not gonna get shepherd's pie. You're not gonna get ugali. Exactly. So if you want ugali, put some hot water and some maize flour together, cook it over time, you'll get ugali. You get something different if you want something different, you know? But here we are, and you're saying that you want something different, but you're doing the same thing. And this is, of the picture that we see right here of two gentlemen shaking hands. President William Ruto and Raila Odinga shaking hands, okay? And they're talking about a handshake in the offing. And they're saying that this is the big week where there will be an announcement about, what's going to happen. So broad-based government aside, there seems to be that there is discussion around a pact that is being made by the president and Raila Odinga. And think about every president that has been elected in the last 4 terms, that there has been a handshake of sorts with Raila Odinga. But is that going to happen, is the question.
What exactly?
So the handshake has been had. Interestingly enough, and this is just going from the details of this story and what we saw yesterday, that from the podium, when he held this particular press conference, what did he say? He said some of the things that they want to push for is to ensure that, he would listen to the concerns of the people, and that he would want to come in and do what the people say. And he also wanted to push for reparations for those who have been victims of the abductions that the state had to pay. So somebody hearing him would think, okay, Raila might go it alone and say he's coming back to the place where he's going to fight for the people, we cannot run away from that. That has been his legacy, for the very longest time. And that was what people expected of him, especially post June 25th, 2024. but that we saw that there was a forming of the broad-based government, and that there was the whole push behind him towards the AUC chair seat. So where did he lie? And that was 25 years of legacy then going up in smoke for Raila Odinga. Is it possible that there would be a prime minister's position for him in a new deal with Ruto? Is it possible that he's entering into this new pact on Ruto's side for him to be able to garner enough support for the 2027 election? Because if anybody thinks we're not in full campaign mode, then I don't know where you're living, and you must be asleep under the cover of darkness under the earth. Because we're in campaign mode, and it's silly season already. Everybody's out, and it's open season for everybody. So yes, we're in campaign season, and everybody's making the alignments in the way in which they feel that they should. And the question is, would it be in Raila Odinga's best interest today to form a pact with William Ruto?
What does it look like?
What does it look like? It looks
because
like
what we're seeing right now is, in fact, I'm waiting for that grand announcement. Just reminds me of Musalia Mudavadi when he said earthquake.
Thunder. Oh, it was earthquake thunder. I thought it was
it was earthquake.
Oh,
yeah.
Are we still waiting for it?
That was his earthquake. Okay. Now he's PCS. Yeah. But now for Raila Odinga, I'm not really sure. This guy though, someone is it our own paper?
It's
that has called him Canning before, or is it Canning Ruto? So Raila Odinga has a political way of maneuvering around his political presence, and somewhat Kenyans usually buy it. I just don't know, especially after the June 25th, 2024 happenings with the Gen Z, if it's still going to work for him, because you've said we'd put the same ingredients for the same results. This time, though, I'm not sure how the young population is going to take this. Remember, after they did the broad-based government, there was a lot of conversation around it. First, the people who were saying, why would you say Raila Odinga betrayed you? Was there an agreement between you and him anyway on how he's supposed to move politically? But I have a strong feeling that Kenyans are not the same as then, especially for the young generation. So the handshake, there are also analyses that it might be doing something similar to what happened in the Moise government. I think it's 1997. Or something akin to the, Mwai Kibaki, a national accord. So I don't know what it is, but what I know, however, is broad-based government already happened. So what would be new, really, if they made the announcement?
That's what I'm saying.
What is new?
What would be new is if the president joined ODM.
There you go.
Would he?
That's the only.
That was only what would be new.
That's the only thing that could be new right now. Because what's the difference between what we see?
What is the grand announcement?
Yeah, look at it. Uhuru 1, there was more or less a pact with Raila Odinga. Uhuru 2, there was definitely a pact with Raila Odinga. Before that, Kibaki, there was a pact with Raila Odinga.
Yeah, of course.
And now with Ruto, there is a pact. And you have to ask yourself, okay, so what different? What different? Is this case where, a dog bites a man and there's a big deal? In this case, yeah, if a man bit a dog, that would be the difference. In this case, if William Ruto joined the ODM party and said, let's do this with you guys, that would be the only difference, because I don't see anything else.
He served as prime minister before anyway.
You see, the political landscape, I've said this before, I'm not in the business of this political prophesying. I simply look and tell you what I see.
All right.
Forget the future, okay?
Here, now, here.
Yes. I do not think we have ever heard as much noise as we heard when President Ruto and his deputy Gachagua came into power. When and I'm calling it noise because it was a lot of it about how they will not be like Uhuru. They will not shake anybody's hand, let alone his foot. They will not, the things they wouldn't do.
I'm telling you.
This conmanship, these people who get into government with a back door.
Chaos.
They who are, us who, what,
pigs
and
would sooner fly.
They spoke and they spoke. I was thinking about this as I was walking up the stairs this morning to come to the office. And I was thinking, perhaps we didn't hear what they were saying. They said it so often, it's like they were foretelling what was going to happen. It's like they were speaking about the thing they feared most. Not the thing that they were protesting and protecting themselves against, but the thing that they feared most. So it's like they talked this fear into being. So here we are. Because
Absolutely.
on the one hand, the president has the handshake. On the other hand, Gachagua, who's led this parade, is talking nice to Raila. Talking real nice. So, if you were to look at the political landscape, forget the prophesying, what exactly do you see? And let me be specific. What does this tell you about political players in this country? Are they reliable people? Are they people whom you can rely on?
If you can jump ship, like somebody blinks and you jump ship, even before you know, you've already moved. Your leg is almost still even in the water itself and you're getting into the new ship. And before anybody's saying, you're already talking and moving about. It's like in my village, the cockerel that enters a new yard and doesn't even wait to see what's happening and has already put both legs down. Nah. You've already moved. So, can I depend? It's true. See, it's very true. If I see you jumping about, you're here today, you're there tomorrow, you're there tomorrow. Then I come tomorrow and I tell you, you can count on me.
You will
1,
switch.
2, 3, I'll be there. It's a lie.
I like the song part. Now,
You won.
the same Gachagua who was a hardliner.
Still is.
Now he is embracing Raila Odinga.
He's headlining for the opposition.
No, now he has that ship you're talking about.
No, but what did he say yesterday? He said, no problem.
Yeah.
Even Raila, if he wants to
He
come,
started saying that long last
He
year.
can come.
If anything.
You see, my point is, the constant in this conversation is Raila.
That's right.
He is the constant. So the question has to be asked, why does this man remain the constant? Why?
Why do we have
Naysayers
accommodated?
bay until they are hoarse. Those who support him until they're almost legless. But the man seems to remain. There are those who refer to him as the enigma. There are those who think he has been caged. That conversation began in the Moi era and the side of Bas. Raila has been swallowed up. The complete opposite is what happened. So, what makes you think that what happened in the Moi era will not happen now?
Interestingly.
Because this same President William Ruto was a member of ODM.
Right.
So the conversation in the ODM is not a new conversation. This is a setup. He knows, understands the players. He also knows, they also know him. This UDA is the new outfit. Food for thought.
Very interesting.
You know, somebody once said that Raila Odinga, he usually sets the, I don't know if they call it the wave temperature of the politics, especially towards elections, that you're either voting against Raila or for the person you're voting in. I don't know how that works. So if he is in the ballot or someone in the presence says somebody Tosha, that's where the wave now starts. Are we voting against Raila or for the other person? They actually almost never vote for him. It's either against him or he kind of balances something out there. And I'm equally curious, who is this guy, Raila Odinga?
You know, even as we talk about how untrustworthy politicians are, how finicky are we? How is it that we are able to be swayed this easily? Because the untrustworthy narrative comes about as a result of what we've been told would happen and doesn't happen, and yet we still think it will happen. Do raise the issue, guys. You've seen this over. What makes you think that something different is going to happen? Yes. So again, reflection.
Yeah.
What does it say about us?
The electorate?
Yes. Are we constantly going to be wind vanes tossed to and fro with every new wave and whim? Is it possible for us to sit and think and ask ourselves that fundamental question? How exactly do we want to be ruled? Do we want to be a country that is ruled by the rule of law? Because that's what the new constitution is supposed to bring about.
Is Kenya a gullible lot politically?
You see, the flip side of gullible is trusting.
So,
Is our trust being taken for granted and abused?
100%. I'm not even going to think about it twice. 100%. You know why? Because they can do this every single time. Every single time. Somebody just needs to stand on some step somewhere and shake somebody's hand.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to go along with it and say, oh, fantastic. And they'll say, Kenyans, they'll make noise for a minute, but after a while they'll get over it and we'll be fine.
which is what happens.
Absolutely, they abuse it because they know that Kenyans will take it, not in subservience, but because Kenyans are an endearing people. They'll say, okay, fine, let's give it another chance. Unfortunately, this time around, I don't think that that's going to be the welcome that they're going to get. I don't think it's going to be welcomed by Kenyans with open arms and say, okay, yeah, you guys want to shake hands and you want to do a pact. You want to make somebody the prime minister and we just sit back here and watch and you guys can do whatever you want to do and then you do broad-based. I don't think Kenyans are going to accept it anymore.
Unfortunately, there's a section of Kenyans that will worship the floor of where Raila Odinga walks on. That's where we come into the mindset check, the attitudes, and shaping our attitudes. And there's something about a section of Kenyans who cannot see it the way you see it and do. For them, if he says "Aya," it is "Aya." Interestingly,
have you ever wondered why that is so?
I wonder still till this morning.
A little history, a little walk around memory lane will help provide some answers. Not all, but some. The Raila once he's here is a consummate politician. There was a Raila of yesteryears who was a consummate revolutionary in the literal sense of the word.
Yeah.
Paid a very steep price for it. That seems to have been brushed aside. There are very few people who were detained for their political activities like this man was.
Right.
I think there's only one man who was detained longer than him, a gentleman called Wasonga Sijeo. But other people were detained. Now, the position he took was unpopular to the point where friends deserted him. People whom he knew and could rely on would see him walk in and they would take off because they felt association with this guy can get you jailed.
To trouble, yes.
Okay? That persistence over time is what gave him the reputation that has later been built onto what you see. As a man who stood for something when other people did not. It is the same metal that made someone like Kenneth Matiba popular. He had been a minister in the government. He moved out. People like Rubia moved out.
Yeah.
Why? Because they decided, no, we've got these cushy jobs, but there's something we need to change here. And they moved. You look at people like Koigi Wamwere.
Yes.
Okay? There are very, very many Kenyans. People like Mwachofi. Look, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. History tends to forget that what we now have is as a result of what all these people and others did. They were able to stand up and say, no, this we don't believe. This we will not do. People like Martin Shikuku, who most people have forgotten. People who in the time of Jomo Kenyatta could stand up and actually oppose the government directly.
And say, come on, this is not on.
This isn't, okay? People like Serone. I'm simply saying that we have a very rich history of people who were willing to stand up and be counted. Raila Odinga was one of these people who stood up to be counted and paid a steep price for it. This is what is forgotten over time.
You know, the thing is, CT, that and this is why in my heart I willed, just based on that, and I know we're going over in this conversation, but I think it's important. I willed in my heart that he would stay that particular course. You know why? Because look at the way a population looks at its leadership or its administration. If there's anything going wrong, like now, look at what we've seen: 1.3 trillion shillings.
Yes.
Out, manual withdrawals over 7 months out. Who will you relate that to? The government of the day. And you'll ask yourself, the president, what's going on?
Do you have anyone else in mind?
So a health system goes down you flush it, basically it's going down the loo, and who you're going to associate that with? The president and his people, right? You're going to say, oh, the infrastructure in the country has a problem. Who are you going to associate that with? The president. So now you see things continuing going, down the drain. Now, if you associate yourself in any way, shape or form with the things, the ongoings in government, what are you going to be called? That you are
part of it.
You're part of it. So what does that do? It does much more than a dent to this legacy of that individual that you say has been built over time.
Yes,
history.
In fact, it throws it out the window completely. Nobody's going to remember 30 years of a struggle. Nobody's going to remember 30 years of being the person who stood for something. People are going to remember, this is the man who has stood or is standing with somebody who is watching things go down the crapper. That's what you're going to remember. And that's why I was saying, I pray, I will in my heart for him to stay the course that he's been over the last 30 years. But it looks as though, from what we see, and I don't think this is just innuendo, that that might exactly be what we are looking at today.
And looking at the NADCO report that they're looking at implementing two things. Official office of the opposition, something of the sort, which would be fully funded. And now the office of the Prime Minister. Look, guys, I really do not know how this is going to go. The same Raila was supposed to be the strong opposition, checking that same government, as has been the conversation. But still, when he gives his public remarks, he talks about holding them accountable on matters of abduction. Anyway, let's see who's going to be taking that office of the opposition.
Well, let me mention something here. Remember, one of the things that Honorable Peter Kaluma has said, in the system, a presidential system, you have a majority and a minority.
That's right. The
entire parliament in its entirety are supposed to check the executive, irrespective. Now,
yes.
That's the theory. It's the theory, because if you look at where we took this example from America, even now the people saying, those who are in the Republican, the people who don't agree with the president, but they're just quiet. So the check and balance, when it comes to that system, it seems to be faulty. Probably that is why many people prefer a parliamentary system, where it is clear. We are in the opposition and you are in government, and we will keep checking you. In fact, what we will have a cabinet, a shadow cabinet that checks you at every turn. Okay? So those who wrote the Constitution and came up with this, the experiment isn't working very well.
A very expensive constitution for that matter.
Yes, but this experiment is not working very well. That particular section is not working very, very well. We need to relook it.
For sure. All right. Well, we're going to be looking into more of this. Over the couple of days, it'll be very clear which direction it's all going to take. But, to run away from the fact that, an enigma, I think he still is. I think to an extent, what he decides to do in the next couple of days will have a big bearing of how people then regard him later. All right, give us another. Yes.
What do you think? They call him Father of Democracy.
For Kenya?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
And you can have
what
many
fathers. What do you think, Anki?
Father of Democracy. Well, yeah, I think he is, but I just, like Ndu said earlier on, there's just a twist that's happened that makes me forget that he should be a father of democracy and then just sustain it. Because I'm beginning to feel, do we really have democracy in this country?
Oh, we do.
Is it?
Oh, democracy.
Is it the democracy that is mediocrity or really democracy?
We have democracy by the spade load. You see, when you talk democracy, you think America. Right at this particular moment, isn't America looking more and more like us? Democracy, the country that has led the world in talking and acting freedom, but whose form of democracy are you talking about?
Exactly.
Whose?
And I think that for the longest time, when we talk about democracy, we always mirrored it against what other nations have said their democracy is.
Okay.
But I still think, if you want to flip it and say, I think that everybody should be able to work out their own democracy with fear and trembling. That you should be able to. And I think that that's the thing, that it's not static, that that democracy should and can be organic. That this is how the democracy works for you. Go with it by all means.
And what that means, Anki, is that
yes.
You see what all these things we're saying?
Yes.
This is us working out our democracy.
There you go.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a good thing that we
are actually working it out. The discussions, the problems, the issues, the questioning.
Yeah.
This is it.
The questioning. That's powerful.
Yes.
All right. I might not give too much detail of this, I think, because of time, but I'm seeing here betrayal and bloodshed, the state's cover-up of J.M. Kariuki's assassination. I kind of just picked up on this, looking at what his history City brought in. And J.M. Kariuki always believed Ben Gaithy to be a trusted confidant and a bosom friend in the track years. Corridors of power. At no time did he believe anyone could dare touch him. He walked around without bodyguards and was a night owl. I think this particular one is just the story of J.M. Kariuki, and of course how he was silenced. No fingerprints were taken. They say he was alive in Zambia at some point, and the widow that got a tip off. I remember by the time the widow, I think she also passed on, was just but begging
It wasn't one widow. But one passed on.
Oh,
yes.
one passed on,
yeah. More than one wife, yes.
But there was this outcry to just know where his remains were. And just looking at, the democracy and how we got it and those who have been forgotten, just touching on the history, I felt like this was something to highlight. They should grab a copy of the Daily Nation and, read page 10 of it. Yeah.
Many years since that happened. Yeah.
Yes. But it's good to remember.
It is actually absolutely important.
City, give us another story. It was in 2 minutes.
Let us look at DRC, shall we?
Let's do it.
Right. Turning the tide on Congo, that is on the headlines, kabisa. Bolstered by actions against Rwanda, by EU, US and UK, Kinshasa now turns to Western entities, inviting them to tap minerals on its soil with the belief it could bring peace by cutting off support to militias. Page 4 and 5. This is what the East African is saying.
Yes.
The East African is in a statement talking about the problems that have been in DRC since God knows when, and how this issue of Western entities coming in, they have been in. So I don't really know what they're talking about. But maybe these are new Western entities coming in. These perhaps are new permissions, new agreements, new understandings. The truth of the matter is this. The moment Western entities come in to solve internal problems, these problems will not end.
They will not.
Because they will take sides.
In fact, you'll exacerbate the situation.
It will not get better. It will get worse. Yes. This is now when we need to put on big boy pants and big boy shoes as a continent and try and see if we can't sort out these problems.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But for how long have we attempted?
No. We've been running around in diapers. We need to put on big boy pants now and put on big boy shoes. This is an opportunity that we can. These presidents can be talked to.
I actually think that they know the right thing to do.
Yeah.
They know the right thing to do.
They do.
When to do it, how to do it. They know.
And some of these problems that you see, they arise because of these so-called Western entities being in these places and poking their noses in these issues. That is part of the problem.
Trying to be the solution.
No, they solve their own problems. It has nothing to do with ours.
All right. Getting towards the top of the hour. We have more conversations coming in at 7 o'clock. The Registrar for Political Parties and Dorito will be in the hot seat at 7 as we've looked at some of those stories making the headlines today. It continues on Kenya's biggest conversation. Good morning, 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asset. We start the bulletin with a story on donations in churches, where President William Ruto has maintained that he will continue to support the churches through donations, insisting that he is a product of giving in the churches. Now, the president highlighted the fact that as much as Kenyans have continued to highlight him and castigate him giving to the churches, he will continue to give, insisting that nowhere in the Bible has it been indicated that it is wrong to give. And President William Ruto has assured Kenyans that the Social Health Authority is a key pillar of the government's universal healthcare program and that it will overcome its initial challenges. Now, he acknowledged that previous administrations struggled with similar efforts but expressed confidence that his government would deliver universal health coverage.
Mimi mwenyewe nitatoa milioni 20 kwanza. Mimi nimejaribu sana kutafuta kwa Biblia, na mimi ni msomi wa kiasi wa Biblia. Nimejaribu kutafuta mahali inasema ati ukimpatia Mungu unarudishiwa na askofu.
Nakitui Senator Enoch Wambua, while responding to the head of state, said that sickness cannot wait for SHA to be fixed, hence the reason the government must ensure that it is working. Now, more than 20 people from Todonyang, Turkana County remain unaccounted for a week after a violent attack on fisherfolk along the Kenya-Ethiopia border. Now, the Kenya Red Cross reports that 8 individuals are being rescued and reunited with their families, while expert divers aboard specialized boats continue the search and recovery operation in Lake Turkana. Mumias East MP Peter Selassie has slammed President Ruto for alleged poor leadership after he donated 20 million shillings despite banning the practice last year. In a video that has been doing rounds on social media, Selassie asked the president to use public funds wisely by addressing complex issues such as health and education instead of seeking political fame. Furthermore, Selassie wondered why the president is donating money to build churches that are already self-sustaining while there are issues surrounding SHA and CBC that are going through financial challenges.
I want to ask the President, William Ruto, you are not elected to construct churches. And you know exactly that the exchequer doesn't have the money always. They take all the time. So were you elected to come and subject Kenyans into problems or to solve the problems of Kenyans? And SHA is a scam. It's not going to work. As you give out money, they are in the churches as you get celebrated, but those people are lying to you.
Residents of Keyo North Elgeyo Marakwet County torched the house of the main suspect in the murder of Dr. Simon Cheboy, a dentist at Iten Referral Hospital. Cheboy's decomposing body was discovered in a forest Friday evening, a week after he went missing. Keyo North Deputy Commissioner Julius Mayo confirmed that the suspect, who was last seen with the deceased before his disappearance, has been arrested to assist with investigations. Now, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has declared that the Gema communities will shape Kenya's next government with or without opposition leader Raila Odinga. Now, speaking at a church service in Machakos, Gachagua exuded confidence in numerical strength, asserting that their political strategy was solid, insisting that their force will dethrone President William Ruto. Gachagua also took a swipe at President Ruto, claiming that his political survival currently depends on Raila Odinga's influence. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Running a business in Kenya and struggling with slow, expensive cross-border payments? With Verto, you can send and receive money globally, faster, cheaper, and hassle-free. Pay suppliers, collect payments, and expand internationally with ease. 49 currencies, 190 plus countries. One powerful platform. Better rates, faster settlements, secure transactions. Global payments made easy. Sign up today at www.vertofx.com. Verto, your global business payments partner.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 5 minutes after 7 o'clock on this third day of March, getting into a new month and the first week of that, the first show of that on Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. Karibuni sana to the Situation Room. And as we continue our very important conversations that move the nation in here, in the region and also around the world, touching on those conversations, and that is what we do here every morning. Glad to have you here, Ndu, CT and Anki, getting into those conversations with you this Monday morning. And even as we do, CT, you're still telling us a word or two, or in this case 3, about what we need to do to get a mortgage.
Well, yes, that is if you want a mortgage. If you want a house, hopefully, which will become a home. There are many options, but let me tell you about one option that is not only worth looking into, but one option that will probably meet the needs you have. Diamond Trust Bank is saying, good morning, this is it? No, not yet sunny morning. Yes, misty morning.
A little bit of...
Yes, we have a mortgage plan for those who are employed, those who are self-employed, and those who are in the diaspora. We, as Diamond Trust Bank, have a plan that can offer you up to 105% of what it is that you require if you are in paid employment. If you're in the diaspora, we offer up to 80%. And Diamond Trust says, look, just so that we put a clinch on it, we're saying we don't have any hidden charges. That's one. Two, we don't have penalties. Should you pay ahead of the schedule, we will not charge you. We will not penalize you. And then they're saying, look, we're not difficult to get hold of. You can either visit any of our branches, any, countrywide, or you can send us an email at mortgages@dtbafrica.com. And everything you need to know about what we offer and how we offer will be provided for you so that you can make this dream that you've had for the longest time come true.
Amazing. Fantastic. And then when we also remember that 1 million people make their way into the job market every year, it's not always welcoming, because sometimes you don't have the skills that you require to make the connect. Now, KCB Group, through the KCB Foundation, saw this gap and set up the 2G program. And what that does is that it now gives the skills to those who don't have them. For 6 months, you get into a skilled program across different industry and different sectors, and then you're able to get that, the skill set that you need, and then you can start a job. It sounds so easy, but it actually is the connect that the 2G program is making with thousands of young people between the ages of 18 and 35 around the country. And so that means that you then get a shot that you may have missed before. You get a shot at, starting your own business, or one at a job, because of the mechanisms that they put in place to make this a possibility and a reality for you. You can be part of this as well. Get onto the website www.kcbgroup.com/foundation. We're getting into a political parties conversation this morning. And our good friend Anne Dorito is here. She's a registrar of political parties, and she joins us in the hot seat this morning. Good morning.
Good morning to you, madam.
How are you doing?
I'm very well.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Your face is calm. And usually they say the calm before the storm. This is what it looks like. we are in 2025, but you would imagine that there is an election tomorrow.
I imagine it. That is Kenya for you. Oh, yeah.
So that's the conversation that we're getting into today. And I'm very glad that you joined us this morning. Let's welcome you today with CT's proverb. He goes around the continent every week, and he's in a different country today. So he tell us what the proverb is, and you can tell us how you would interpret that.
Come again?
He'll tell us the proverb for today, and then you can tell us how you would interpret that proverb as we start off the conversation. Yes? Okay.
Thank you very much for honoring our invitation.
Yeah.
You've been here before.
Yeah.
Yes, and we always begin with the proverb. This week and the next week and the next will be in West Africa.
Yeah.
Today we are in the country of Burkina Faso. Yes, the land of honest people. This is the name that was given to this country by the President Thomas Sankara when after the coup that he brought about in 1983. This country is unfortunate in that it has had coups after coups after coups after coups after coups. And despite the mineral wealth that this country has, it's one of the poorest countries on the planet. But they have a new president, gentleman by the name of Ibrahim Traore, and he seems bent on trying to bring about change. Now the proverb: if you look for trouble, you will not miss it.
Yeah, that trouble is always around us.
Yes.
It means that if you turn any time,
Yes.
And you are actually looking for it, it is not far from where you are. From where you are, it's a component of life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look for it, you find it.
Yes.
The best thing is to ignore trouble and don't look for it.
It's really, and you will not find it.
Yeah, and you'll not find it if you are not looking for it.
Very true.
Yeah.
People say that this country is one of the most politicized countries on the planet. So anybody who holds your job at registrar of political parties, that is a person who has trouble by the bucket load.
Truth of the matter is, it's not an easy task.
Yes.
It's not an easy job.
Yes.
But a Kenyan has to do it.
Yes.
And that
Someone
Kenyan,
has to do it.
that Kenyan currently happened to be myself.
And hence I said, your face is quite calm. And they say the calm before the storm. And just jumping off into that conversation this morning is, keeping political parties in check. This is the time that we will see many a political party formed. Everybody has a different agenda. Starting from an overview of from where you sit. What are we seeing now in terms of, different moves that people are that different people are making before we go to, some of the things that have come out from the courts, for example, and things like that.
I think the first thing is to look at the landscape of our political parties from a perspective of the rush also to register political parties, and also the rush to rebrand political parties, and they look at the different of issues, the way the parties want to be known out here as we prepare for the next election, and also the issue of people who are outside political parties wanting to get into political party leadership. Some of them being people who are interested in 2027 elections and they have not been involved in political parties before. So we are seeing a rush, either people joining political parties and wanting to join at the highest of political parties. Therefore, you see change of officials. Then we see rebranding, and also we see rush to registration of political parties. Currently, we have over 30 or 40 applications that are ongoing in terms of processing of political parties. Since 2022.
These are new political parties?
These are new political parties, Kenyans who are searching to register. But applications are many there, especially in reservation of names, it's in their hundreds. Yeah, but you see, once you apply, the speed at which you move depends on you as the people proposing to register a political party. So we can say that the ones that have taken some progress is that something that 3, that 4 towards registration. Since 2022, we have only registered 2 political parties since 2022 elections, meaning those are the ones who have been able to meet the requirements for registration. Those are the fully registered political parties that we registered last month. So that means that as we look at the landscape towards 2022, we see people really interested in political parties and how to get into those political parties, especially as party officials. And if you look at every Gazette notice every Friday, you are going to see how parties are rebranding, how parties are changing officials and all that. Some want to change colors, some want to change officials, some want to change, all those come together as a package. But one thing I want to note is that we have really put procedures in terms of registration of a political party. It's not very easy these days. That's why we can say since the last general election to date, we have been able, only 2 parties have been able to complete the procedures, meaning that we have put clear procedures on how you register political parties without breaching, especially data of Kenyans. And that has actually made it a bit slow as compared to the last season. Yeah,
the role you play is really, really important. And I was yet to hear in your preliminaries remarks talk about the Political Parties Amendment Bill that was, I think, insinuating or trying to scrap your office, replace it with the commission.
Yeah.
How did that go?
One, it's still on.
Okay.
The bill is still on. I think it has now passed the stage of the Senate.
Yes.
It is actually in the National Assembly. The National Assembly have called for public participation so that it progressed to the next level. But what we are happy about now, when the Senate did ask for public participation and our office participated, majority of the issues we raised, they took them on board. Because the bill, as it was originally presented, lacked some very critical issues that looked at the institution as it is today. We wanted it to be a going concern even after the commission come on board, and that is what they have put there. The bill now has put those measures.
Okay.
That is, it's the institution, the OLPP, that is actually being transitioned into a commission, as opposed to how the bill suggested. It's like it's scrapping and bringing a new institution.
Okay.
So really, as the bill starts today, it's not a new institution. It's just a question of transitioning OLPP from a single-led member institution to a moot-led institution. So a single-led is where there's one person at the top and then the other branches. But now a moot-led is where 5 people are sitting on the top and then the rest come down.
If we're to follow that example with political parties, because political parties are what gives us what you call a president who then appoints cabinet, etc., etc. If we're to take that thing to its logical conclusion, how would it work if we had a commission at the level of the president where we had 5 people sitting down together?
I know. What I can tell you, a moot-led has its own challenges.
It has, my point exactly.
Yeah, it has its own challenges,
Yes.
and but then this is a country, and legislation. The work of legislation belongs to Parliament.
It does. You see, I'm extending the argument and the discussion, because when you focus the discussion on, say, the registrar of political parties or the entity that oversees the processes of registering political parties, then to have a meaningful discussion, then you have to look at other entities as well. Okay, we have the IEBC, and they have a commission. Now we see at the circus there. We had a simpler system before the IEBC came into being. The circus was less profound. Now, all I'm saying is, it's a discussion that this country has had for the longest time with regards to, do we bring this thing together and mix it up so that we have many people in it? Or do we have one person at the helm and have people who work with them? And from what I have seen, if I'm to go by even the highest office in the land, what seems to work is you have to have a leader at the top. Yes, a leader. Not 3 leaders, a leader. The Romans tried it, where you had a triumvirate, as they call it, 3 people at the top. And part of the reason was because they were all powerful, and unless they agreed, they were going to be in a state of constant war. Now, deciding on how political parties should move forward, essentially, if I am to understand what the bill in its original form meant, was that let's form a debating society. And let this debating society decide how political parties are going to run. Nothing was going to be chaotic.
That's true. But now, what they have put in the process of the review of that bill.
Yes.
The original one never had even qualification. Who should be a commissioner and who is disqualified to be a commissioner. But the current one, as it has been put out, has at least disqualification, that if you have been a political party official for the last 5 years, you cannot become a commissioner. If you had run for office, for political office, you cannot become a commissioner. At least the disqualification are there. However, the bill still remains that it is the coalitions and it's political parties that are basically proposing who become a commissioner.
They would. We know and see, this is me saying, the mess they have made of IEBC. Same thing, because the moment you have political parties having a big say, where then is the independence of this particular body?
It's assumed the people who are being proposed are apolitical, and that means then they will, in their own volition, as good Kenyans, be able to detach themselves from the political parties and do the right thing. That is the assumption. That is the assumption.
Is that the hope?
Yeah.
Is that the hope of the Office of the Registrar?
The Judicial Service Commission.
Exactly.
Let's take a situation where political parties were allowed to appoint people. Tell me what that would look like. It would be utterly and absolutely chaotic. I'm simply saying that when you look for independence in institutions, the say of the politicians should be at the level of parliament, where they have their people. They already have a say. To give them a second say beyond the parliament and the Senate is simply saying that we are inviting problems we don't need, and the independence that the Constitution promises certain institutions will definitely not be there. Yes, that's my view. I don't know what my colleagues think.
Speaking of independence, because there was this time, I think 2023 thereabout, where your office was accused of being compromised. And you said at this point in time, it's very hard to know because each party would work with its convenience, where you lean towards. And I'm just looking at headlines when you came in. They said the woman to sanitize Kenyan politics in 2022. That's the headline they gave you. And we're yet to find out how it's going in terms of your independence vis-a-vis the compromising situations.
No, ask the question. I mean, it would be...
Because that is the question. How is it going? Because in as far as people are now looking at amending the act, etc., it's based on the compromising situation that your office would have, and as far as this political parties is concerned. How are you maneuvering that?
I think the first thing you should know why probably the political class thought a commission is better. Probably they thought the registrar as it is now, the office of registrar as it is now, takes certain stands and probably more legal, and for that then we are likely less influenced by the politics because we are recruited independently, and we look at law. For example, for me, I'm a career civil servant. There's nothing you tell me new in terms of breaking the law. I will stick to the law because that is what has formed me since I joined the public service, and therefore I will look at the public service and the interest, the interest of the citizens and the interest of the country at large. And that may not sit well with some of the politicians because you have to make a decision. The decision must really stick to the law. And probably a person here and there may feel that is a bit so strict, and probably you are not bulging and you are not influenced easily. So it's safer to bring a bigger group, and that bigger group, it's possible to be able. You have options on how you can influence. Probably that's my thinking. Right. But on the other hand, it's also good to know. Sometimes it's also good to be fair to them by saying that probably they may think a bigger group may bring bigger opinions and a mix of opinions, which are as opposed to probably how one person at the top there see perspective. But really speaking, an institution is not only the one person. It's only that it results in one person speaking and making the final say. But it's an institution that has legal department, compliance and all that, and many officers who are working, looking at the law. But probably the issue of looking at this one person who is probably very strict and very firm to the law, maybe a problem, maybe actually be a problem. And I hear them because politics also, you really need to know that you are sure that I can influence maybe here and there. But from where I sit, I think the best way is to really look for Kenyans, whether it's one individual like myself or it's a commission, is look at Kenyans who have corporate good for the whole country, and because the work of registrar is also to regulate politics, and politics can destroy a country. Well, so whoever comes on the top there, whether it's one person or a commission, should actually be looking at the corporate good of a country, so that the politics is settled in such a way it's not affecting operations of a country.
And how does the Office of the Registrar do that when we talk about political regulation? Because I was met with shock when you talk about the fact that there are hundreds of applications for new political parties now, 30 to 40, so hundreds of name registrations and all of that. Yeah. But then 30 to 40 applications for new political parties 2 years to an election. And we wouldn't be surprised if some of the same players who were in other parties before are in these new applications for political parties. So how then do you employ political regulation when it comes to things like this, based off the fact that we know from the early days of politics, when we look at politics from the very beginning, when it became a thing, political parties were essentially ideology based. How do you employ political regulation when it comes to anybody and their uncle can register a political party to be able to run for political seat?
The first thing is to appreciate that the Constitution of Kenya declares Kenya as a multi-party democracy. That actually set the space that any Kenyan can register a political party, provided the rules and regulations and procedures are followed up to the end. So you can actually not really stop any Kenyans from exercising their political rights by registering a political party. What starts is that the Office of Registrar has then to set the procedures and regulations that really regulate that process, how you register a political party, and making sure that it's in compliance fully to the law. One of the issues that have been a very big problem before is membership. For you to register a political party, you are supposed to have 24,000 Kenyans registered before we can declare you a political party. At least 1,000 in 24 counties. Before then, Kenyans used to complain, I don't think I registered in this political party, I don't think this is me who registered and all that. So the first thing was to set up systems that allows Kenyans to give consent during registration, and that when you are registered, mostly we prefer when you do self-registration, and we have created a system to allow you to do self-registration. So a political party approaching you, you just go to the system and you register yourself. That means it is your data you are putting in. And if a political party have to register you, then you must give either written consent or you give a phone consent, a message will come to your phone and then you give consent.
Okay.
Then it's itself alone, it's a regulation that makes sure that there's fairness in terms of who joins a political party at will and who really is moved from a political party, because we make it easier also for you to move out of a political party just by deciding a consent.
Okay.
For example.
Spice up your life.
But then, how do you deal with the behavior, the etiquette around political parties, where I'm going to insist on the ideology base of a political party? Or are you not involved as a registrar in making sure that, number one, there is sanitization, that two, people are not just using it as a vehicle for political expediency, but are actually interested in ideologies that will move the nation forward? Or is the registrar of political parties not involved?
Now, number one, in 2022, amendment to the Political Parties Act, we made it mandatory. If you are registering a political party, you must file with us a statement of ideology. That's the starting point. So that you tell us exactly why do you want to register a political party and which ideologies and principles will you be furthering. So that when we measure you later in the future, we are checking whether you are actually following the principles that you put in place and the ideology that you proposed. That is the starting point. But also know that there are so many other political parties that were registered before, and probably that is what we are dealing with right now, to try and shape them and tell them it's a compliance matter in terms of filing a statement of ideology, which some of them are doing. They are reviewing constitution and they are putting it as part of it. But come to regulation of the political space itself. One, there's also a political party
Mature
the Political Parties Act. And that Political Parties Code of Conduct is our instrument. Sometimes when we see that you are going outside the circle, we are supposed to use that Political Parties Code of Conduct, and we have used it before to try and tell you are actually infringing on the rights of others, because the most important thing is that you have your political rights, but your political rights end where another person's political rights start. So don't infringe even in the right of another political party or even in the right of other individuals practicing their rights of associations politically. So I think this Political Party Code of Conduct, but I cannot deny that we have a bit of a long way to form formidable political ideologies in Kenya. And it's a journey. And I want to remind you and Kenyans in general that Kenya is only 32 years now, that 2 years old multi-party democracy.
Okay.
From 1992. Now we are comparing with democracies, like for example, Sweden, the US, and all that, which have been there 200 years plus going forward. I think we are somewhere. We should not also judge ourselves too harsh. Let's give ourselves also time to form, because it is important we keep this pace and we keep forming. And the first thing I would say, there's nothing wrong for a person to register a political party for a special purpose vehicle. You hold elections and then you think...
But I think there is.
Yeah.
Because that's the problem, isn't it? Because somebody can get into the political sphere and we've given them the vehicle that they need, which we don't hold in as high regard as we ought to.
I want to give you scenarios.
Somebody can do whatever they want by virtue of the fact that they've registered a political party. I want to give you scenarios across the
globe as an expert in this area. If you go to a country like Sweden, which is a no democracy, you register a political party within days towards election. Indeed, you can register even when you are just one person. Yeah, within days, you go to elections. If you don't win any seats, you drop the vehicle.
Exactly.
Okay.
You drop the vehicle.
Yeah.
You are done with it. Go to South Africa. You register also towards the elections. They can be even as many as 1,000 political parties towards election. They go to an election. After elections, if you don't make to a certain threshold, you drop the vehicle.
It's the same practice.
It's the same
here
practice.
In Kenya?
No, the only problem in Kenya is that once you register a political party, to deregister it, it's a problem. And that's what we have saying. That is what we want to change the law. Like now, we have been trying to register some political parties. I can tell you right now, we have given actually suspension to about 5 political parties. But to move from there, to register them, they are all over in court. And the court is giving us order, right, and center, telling them don't even stop them to invite for them for a meeting. Because one, we have suspended you. We think the logical thing to do, don't participate in the meeting. You are suspended. You don't exist for that period. But the court will give you orders and tell you, right, until the case have been heard and determined, the problem of the registration of political parties, which we need to...
Do we have a clear process?
The process is very clear, but first of all, it's very long. Number 2, it has so many legal hurdles.
Is it not long deliberately?
That's the whole question. And that's why that makes the difference between us and those other nations I'm talking about. Because I think, to me, we should make registration of a political party easy and registration also easy. So that you come, if you don't make it to get any people on board in terms of elected leaders, and you don't get a certain level of votes, number of votes, then you start registered.
Okay.
And then you come towards the next election, you now register again, you keep trying. If you get then you keep forming. In some jurisdiction, and I'm speaking of Sweden because that is my last engagement with in a process.
Yeah.
In Sweden, if you don't attain 4% of the votes, you cease to exist. You cease to exist.
Okay, let's take a break on this.
Then you go, all of you now, the one who get 4 point something, because their system is PR, proportional representation, it's party list and all that. They are the ones now who go to parliament and form government.
And say,
they go form coalition and form government.
All right. Let's take a break at this point, and then we're going to come back with a very important question, I think, and that's coming from Wambua. Because then the question is, if you know that this party is formed on ideology, why wouldn't you take on the same, practice that you see in these jurisdictions that you've mentioned and say, okay, fine, let's deregister you because you've not lived up to your ideology, because you come to us on ideology base. How do you keep folks righteous, as it were? All right. Anne Dorito is the registrar of political parties. She's our guest this hour. We take a break. Yes, we know we're having a bit of an issue with the sound, and that's being worked on right now. So please just bear with us and we'll come back and everything should be hunky-dory. It's 25 minutes to 8 o'clock. Don't go away. We'll be back after this break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Partly sunny conditions in Nairobi at 15 degrees, and it's partly sunny. The sun is up at 21 in Kakamega. It is sunny into Kampala at 21. Is sunny. Johannesburg at 17 is cloudy. We're looking at Mogadishu with sunny conditions through Monday, while it's sunny at 15 in Addis Ababa, partly cloudy in Lagos, and mostly cloudy at 25 in Kinshasa.
Spice up your life.
Monday morning traffic is busy this morning. Let's take a quick look at Landys Road as you're coming in from Jogo Road, which is busy as you touch on the roundabout. And it's bumper to bumper going through towards Kamkunji and then on to Haile Selassie. Inbound traffic on Haile Selassie is also busy. So we took a look at the Southern Bypass where there was some outbound and inbound traffic, probably just a hiccup of the morning because that seems to be clear now. And coming off of Langata Road as you head towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, that is a little bit busy here and there. Gong Road busy as well, very busy coming in from that whole Karen area coming in through to from the interchange coming off the Southern Bypass as well. And there is some traffic as you come through towards the city. Let's take a look at the Thika Superhighway, which is already piling up with traffic very early, and still there it is. Bumper to bumper, heavy traffic on the Thika Superhighway this morning as you get into the city. So it looks like it's going to be one Monday for the books. Yes, we know schools are resuming as well, so that's going to be busy as well. Let's keep an eye on things and trying to keep things moving. We'll speak SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
21 minutes to 8 o'clock, and the Registrar of Political Parties, Anne Derrito, is our guest this hour. And we're just looking at, keeping everybody in check, keeping everybody in the boat and nobody spills over. But it would look as though there is some spillover. And that question from Sammy, I think, forms the basis for the next part of our conversation. So folks come in based on our ideology. They say they're going to do 1, 2, 3. Then you give them, the registration. They go, they're able to, start to recruit members in their party. It's interesting because I don't know how they do it. Every time register and, bring in new party members, but okay. But then down the line, you find out that they didn't stick to their ideology. Mirroring the example that you've given us of Sweden and say, okay, well, you didn't meet this, then we deregister you. Or in the US, we deregister you. Do you take the practice of deregistration if on the very thing that I came to you as the registrar and said I was going to do, I then do not do? That would contribute to any kind of political stability, to political practice. I don't do that thing I said I was going to do. Wouldn't you deregister me immediately?
Exactly, my point. It's part of the reason why a party can be registered if you don't do what you said within law that you are going to do. And it's also good to know that the issue of the demand of ideology started as the amendment 2022. So there's the question of compliance also. But our challenge is the registration. And I've given you just an example of what you try to register, and then the process. For example, I'll give you what it means in Kenya to register a political party.
Okay.
The first thing you do, you give them a warning, which may take at least 90 days. You have wanted them to collect the breach. If you realize they have breached, whether it's ideology, whether there's membership, whether it's party of issues, whether it's inclusivity, because inclusion is also a ground for the registration, whether it's mismanagement of funds, all those are grounds of the registration. So you give them a warning and you tell them, kindly amend the breach. Some of them, 90 days is a very long time for you to have amended the breach.
3 months, yeah?
3 months. If they don't amend the breach within the 90 days, then you give them notice of suspension. Note here, it's notice of suspension, which take another 90 days. Then within the notice of suspension, there are some that may still amend the breach, and then they continue. After 90 days, after notice of suspension, then you suspend the political party. That is how many months? Those are 9 months. You now give them another 3 months for suspension. So when you suspend them from there, after suspension, majority of them now move to court because they see now they are in the process of being registered.
Deregistered,
Yeah, because the next step after suspension is now giving a notice of deregistration. And when you give notice of deregistration, you now start the deregistration process. And that is where they now go to court. You get all manner of orders, and then the process told. In 2021, I think, we succeeded in registering 2 political parties. But one of them, in spite of fully being registered, they went to court and they get orders that they are not registered, and we had to look for a way for them to. So you see, that's why I'm saying we must make the registration very easy in this country. If you have to implement on point, so that it forms as a deterrent of misbehavior or non-compliance.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that is one of the challenge. I can say from a registrar's point of view that is a challenge, because the time you start wanting to grab the wheat, and the registration, of course, is the highest level of discipline.
Okay.
Then you find that you cannot do that. It becomes a problem. And also, and it matches also the registration. So to me, the first review that we probably would want to look at if we want to have spontaneous actions is, first of all, how a party is registered, so that it's made very easy. And then how a party is registered. It is made also very easy. And the sanctions that the court can also not interfere in terms of the work of the registrar. Because we agree that we gave ourselves a constitution where you have a right to go to court, do ABCD until you exhaust the machinery. But then you also have to look at the right of the institutions that is regulating some of these processes.
Are you then saying that the court is somewhat interfering?
No, I'm not saying it's interfering, because it's their right. They are doing their job.
Okay. Though you said after the court...
but you see, because the law gives the court also the mandate to do what they are doing, because they are also protecting rights of people against, so that we check, is the registrar following the right process? It's okay. There's no problem with the court, actually, because courts are just doing what the laws mandate them to do. But we are saying probably we may have limits. And I'll give you an example. Before 2022 amendment, a political party, even a search of a name, and somebody registrar refusing a search of a name, somebody will go all the way to the Supreme Court. In the amendment of 2022, we said, no, we cannot be taking even very simple things up to the Supreme Court. We said, why don't we cap it at Court of Appeal? Others we capped at High Court. So those are the manner in which I'm saying we probably need to look at that. Where do we go? Up to which court can a person go? Because because the judiciary actually are on the right track. They are doing what a credible judiciary should do. Because the first thing you do, you look at the right of a person against the institution, because the right is also very important. But then our question is, to which extent because it means that if somebody has to go to all the levels up to the Supreme Court, that is 2 years, 3 years. The reason why you are deregistering them now becomes another story altogether. So I think the issue is we look at our system, we see for this one, it goes up to the PPDT, Political Parties Dispute Tribunal. If tribunal rules, then the registrar goes ahead and do what he has to do. And if it's ruled in the paper, in the party, then we implement that.
Okay.
But the problem is the movement from tribunal to High Court, to Court of Appeal, to Supreme Court, and all those are timelines.
I had to ask this question. How exactly do we handle coalitions in this country?
Our coalitions are regulated by law. First of all, the formation. We have the pre-election coalition and post-election coalition.
Okay.
Yeah.
So pre-election coalition, what are those?
Pre-election coalitions is political parties that come together before a general election.
And what do they document to show
at least that is at least 120 days before the general election.
120 days before.
Yeah.
So they say we XYZWF.
Yeah.
We are going to form this
coalition. Yeah.
And they register with you.
Yes, they actually form a coalition agreement. The coalition agreement is the basis on which they operate, and that is what the coalition agreement is what they file with the register of political parties.
And it says what they're going to do, and it also talks about dissolution. Should they not agree, what should happen? All that is included.
All that is included.
Okay.
They put every clause of dissolution, exit.
Okay.
If one of the members want to exit, there's a clarity on how that person should exist. Should any other person want to join post-election, how they join, that is all there in that agreement.
So post-election, how does this work?
Yeah.
The post-election, you can either join an existing pre-election coalition. It's allowed you come as a new party because there's a provision in the agreement on how a post-election coalition can be formed. Not really formed, but a party can join an existing pre-election coalition. That is one method. Parties also can come together post-election and decide to form a coalition. So all of them are allowed.
What if you're already in one party and you're in a coalition and then you want to move now to another coalition?
The first thing is you exist. The first
you
coalition.
Have to exit.
You have to exit the first coalition.
Okay.
And there's the agreement regulates how you exit from that coalition.
There's a time stamp to this as well.
Yeah, not necessarily. It's better with people, with members.
Okay. So the members.
The agreement. It's the members who set the rules of that agreement.
So essentially, that pre-election agreement now comes into force when you want to leave.
No, it's always in force. As far as you are a member,
yes,
you are actually implementing the coalition,
yes,
and you are together.
Yes.
But when you want to exit, then the provisions on how you shall exist, you exit from the coalition.
Is it part of the agreement?
It's part of the agreement.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So that is what you must follow.
Yeah, that is what you must follow.
So if the agreement says if you disagree, you can just walk away. And just tell us I'm walking away.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It is fine.
Oh,
it's fine. It's fine.
So there's okay.
Go ahead.
No, because I'm just following what you're interrogating. Because in my head, I was thinking there's some standard.
No, there's no standard. It's actually
the agreement.
The only thing that is standard is what the Schedule 3 of the Political Parties Act provide. What should go into that agreement? For example, the agreement should of course have how you join and how you exit. Yeah.
Okay.
But the rules of how you exit is formed purely by the coalition members.
Okay. Some point of clarity. So a couple of weeks ago, we did hear from the court because, I don't think that it's possible for this dalliance to happen between the political atmosphere without the registrar of political parties and then without the courts, because everything eventually ends up there by your own admission as well. So the courts came back and told us about the decision that they made following the 2022 election. And then further to that, what happened in the House of Parliament. And that whether there were those that were in the majority or those who were in the minority, and of course the registrar came into question in terms of who then made the pronouncement to then give the Speaker of the National Assembly the order to essentially name who the majority was. From the registrar's point of view, what is the true situation?
The first thing you should know, the determination of who is majority or minority is squarely in the doorstep of the speaker.
With certain information.
As what we do is just provide the state of coalition in just telling the speaker, these are the people who are in this coalition, this other one are in this coalition, this one are free members, they are not in any coalition. We just provide data upon request, and which they have requested at periodic stages. So when we provide that, we leave it to the speaker to interpret the data and make the determination, because that is the work of a speaker.
Okay, so what did you provide?
We provided as per that particular time how the agreements were, and then we give to the National Assembly.
So by simple mathematics, from what you gave over to the speaker, was what the court said then in 2020? I think what the court said in 2024, did it relate to the information that you handed over to the speaker in order for him to make the pronouncement that he did in 2022?
If you read the judgment, you are going to see the court relied on our data.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the speaker
So
also,
I need you to say, Registrar, in this case, the information that you gave to the speaker, did it then correlate with the announcement that he made about who the majority was in 2022?
You know that I cannot speak for him, and allow me not to speak for him.
No.
Yeah, let me speak that we provided data, and the data, when we provide data, how we interpret data, we don't. You know, that is a different institution.
But we're also saying that the court relied on your data, the speaker relied on your data, but the speaker and the court have said two totally different things.
Both the court and the speaker have independence of judgment.
Yes.
Both of them, they have independence of judgment.
Who's higher?
I don't think there's any institution that is higher than the other, but it's only that processes are taken from one level, from one institution to another. But you cannot say, really, I don't want you to really pin down on the decision of another institution. The institutions have their independence, and especially decision independence. And that's why even from one court to another, there's an appeal, even to the second court. So let's treat this as different interpretations. And,
all right.
And the institutions had their own decisions to make.
Somebody once said, numbers don't lie, emotions might lie. All right. Now, if someone walks into this room, there is one gentleman and three ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah? Anybody who walks in will see three ladies, one gentleman.
Yeah.
How would somebody else come and say, oh, you're seeing three gentlemen? And one lady. This is the confusion. They're both using
one lady with a beard.
Right. You know?
They're both using the information you gave them.
Absolutely.
To interpret two different things.
Yeah, because they have their own independence of
reading the numbers.
Allow me to push a little bit more.
Yeah.
The data and information that you gave, was it numerical data?
Or
yes, it's numerical.
It's numbers. So if I see a 3, it is a 3. How can I interpret 3?
I think that the best thing is also to read both the ruling of the National Assembly at that particular time, what they relied on. It's very important to actually also underscore that, because maybe they had some other considerations they made, and then look at also the judicial. And I think without looking like I'm defending, is to just allow the different institutions to make a decision. And once they make a decision, it can be challenged in court. And once the court give an interpretation, then another person who is dissatisfied move to
Madam Registrar has decided on this particular matter.
She's holding on to this
she
one.
She is going to hold on to the position that she gave the data
data was to be interpreted by different institutions.
She is not interpreting it beyond she gave the data.
Yes,
the data, and that's where you're going to
because
stay.
I cannot make a decision for another institution. I make only for the institution.
If anything, we must applaud you for your resilience. Yes. I then must ask.
And recently, let me another information that is very critical. Recently, we were still in court another time. People took us to court, and the first preliminary order that we have expert order that was given by court last week was that the registrar should publish information of all political parties And then also the status of coalition, and we did that. We did in the newspapers.
Oh yes, you did.
And we also did
yes,
a Gazette notice. And we also did a Gazette notice on the status of coalitions, and we gave all the information.
So you have given yet again the information.
Our role.
All right. So allow me to ask you another
Our
question.
role ends there.
Okay. Allow me to ask you another question. It is 2025. If you looked out the window and read the newspapers and watched the news, you would imagine that the election was taking place next week.
Yeah.
What's the plan? What rollout in terms of, you've already told us there's 30 to 40 applications for new political parties, but people are running up all over the place. You know, the IEBC, we don't know yet. You know, this, that, we're not sure what's going on with that. With the registrar of political parties, how are things looking? Because it seems as though you're already being whipped into action.
As we are in full action, indeed, ours is usually a roller coaster. We don't know whether there's election or no election. It's only that in elections it's a bit heightened activities, but actually political parties in Kenya are very active. They keep the registrar on the toe. Either they are fighting, or they are coming together, or they are rebranding, or they are trying to whip their members, or they are also trying to get grassroots support. There is a lot of activities around our office, and especially because political parties are extremely very active in different areas. So how it's looking like for us is that we must prepare for the next general elections, and the first thing is to prepare political parties in majorly on compliance, because parties that are not compliant are not able to put themselves in the elections. And you remember, in the last general election, we had about 90 registered political parties. About 78 of them are the one who participated in elections. The rest did not participate because of non-compliance. And therefore they could not be allowed to go to field candidate because they were not compliant. So we are very busy trying to make the political parties realize the necessity of compliance and forcing that. That's why you hear us talking about suspension, trying to push them to make sure that they are compliant with the law, and so that they are prepared towards the next general election. We are also processing their changes as they bring them, and also whipping them also to think about ideology. Right now, we are, even this week, we are in trainings. We are training political parties on mainly on internal dispute resolution. That is the current training that we are training them in bunches, training at least 3 officers per every political party on internal dispute resolution committees. Then we train on elections boards. We also train the Secretary Generals. We speak the ICT officers, because right now we are also doing serious major reforms on IPPMS, our Integrated Political Parties Management System. So we are really trying to do business reengineering to make sure that the system is responsive to political parties as we look towards the next general election.
Indeed.
We also have materials, training materials. We have a source book we have developed to train political parties. We are training persons with disability to allow them participate in elections. We are training youth. We are training women. So we have all those segregated. And critical also is public education, using NGOs and others at the grassroots in terms of political education. So we are really busy and engaged in terms of trying to prepare political parties towards that.
Definitely have your work.
Not withstanding the issue of disputes that come here and there, and trying to help them, the parties resolve them even before they go to court, and use alternative dispute resolution
to sort out issues.
To sort out issues, so that they are not caught up in courts when others are actually moving towards the general election.
You have your work cut out for you. It's going to be an interesting next couple of months. And we're great to hear from you as things continue to roll out, as you do hold on to your data and information. And Rito is the Registrar of Political Parties, has been our guest this hour. Thank you for honoring our invitation in the hot seat of the Situation Room this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Thank you.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswam Dennis Aseto. Arrangements for the repatriation of a Kenyan police officer fatally shot in Haiti during a security operation have been finalized, with the boat expected to arrive in the country between the 4th and 6th of this month. Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja confirmed that all logistical preparations have been completed and the transportation will begin on the 4th. Speaking at a service at the officer's family home in Naserian, East Kajiado, Kanja assured mourners that the government is providing full support to the bereaved family.
Proud of him. We are proud of him because he was a young man and ready to serve this country, raised here, and he has just done that. Hi to the family, tunasema pole sana. Kwa majirani, tunasema pole sana. Tutasimama na hii family.
Opposition leader Raila Odinga has urged the government to crack down on rampant corruption in the country and ensure that Kenyans receive services they deserve. Odinga has also asked the government to address cases of abduction and overtaxation.
Watu wengi wanapata shida, gharama maisha imepanda, bei ya bidhaa ziko juu. Kwa upande wa matibabu vile mnaona shida ziko pale. Mambo ya ufisadi imeenea sana katika taifa letu hili. Ufisadi inaleta hujuma ya mali ya umma, inafukaisha taifa. Manake unaona deni imeenda juu, lakini watu wanazidi kutoa ushuru, lakini deni vile vile linazidi kupanuka. Mambo ya ufisadi nataka yaangaliwe vilivyo. Hali ya elimu vile vile kuna changamoto, ubaguzi ya kikabila ambayo kufika wakati wa ajira mtu anabaguliwa kwa sababu ya matoka kwa kabila ambayo haitakikani. Tunasema tunataka kila Mkenya apewe fursa sawa kwa sababu Wakenya wote wanalipa ushuru.
You have been assured that the Social Health Authority, a key pillar of the government's universal health program, will overcome its initial challenges. President William Ruto acknowledged that previous administrations struggled with similar efforts, but expressed confidence that his government would deliver universal health coverage.
Kwa sababu it is the biggest program tuko nayo kwa taifa la Kenya, pengine itachukua muda ishike laini, lakini believe you me, it is going to work. Believe you me.
This Executive Senator Enoch Wambua responded to the head of state, saying that sickness cannot wait for SHA to be fixed, hence the reason the government must ensure that it is working now.
Maneno ya matibabu sio maneno ya kusema ati let us fix it pole itakuja tu kuingiana. Ungonjwa, it doesn't wait. If you are sick, you are sick. You need to be treated. This SHA manenos is fraud. That's what it is.
And impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua now says that his main priority is to ensure that President William Ruto is dethroned in 2027. Speaking in Machakos, Gachagua exuded confidence in numerical strength, asserting that their political strategy was solid, insisting that their force will dethrone Ruto.
Ati hatuna mpango, tuko na mpango, lakini mpango ile tumepewa na Wakenya, kwanza the most urgent ni kutoa wewe. And when you call us conmen, Mr. President, take a mirror first. Uangalie wewe mwenyewe, ujiangalie kwa kioo, ukiita sisi conmen. The people of this country know who is a conman in this Kenya. Plan A, toa wewe. Plan B is to restore the peace, is to end corruption, is to end extrajudicial killing, is to end abduction, is to restore our dignity in the foreign service. So wewe usijali, we'll talk about you mpaka tukutoe. So wewe zoea.
Gachagua also took a swipe at the president, claiming that his political survival currently depends on Raila Odinga's influence.
Life support machine ya William Ruto today ni Raila Odinga. Ikizimwa, hii mzee aunge mkono kama atamuunga mkono, mwingine asimame. William Ruto atakuwa namba 4 ama namba 3 akijaribu.
This is Newswam Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 6 after 8 o'clock, and we're still in that first week of the month, first show of this new month, getting into the Situation Room for the second hour, rather into the third hour this morning. And obviously, great to have you in as we continue with those conversations that are necessary to have at whatever level, on whatever scale. Thank you for being here. If you clicked onto our live streams on YouTube and on Facebook and on X, we continue that. A little bit of a hitch before, but that seems to all be sorted out. So thank you for staying on, and also to our audiences on KTN. We're getting into another conversation this hour, and it's going to go political and of mountains and rivers and streams, but we'll get into that in just a bit because our guest is already seated. But before you do, let me remind you that VertoFX is a platform that makes cross-border payment headaches disappear. What are those headaches that you talk about sometimes? Okay, fine, I don't know. Can I send money to a different country if I don't have their currency? Two birds, one stone. On the platform, you sort out the issue of cross-border payments because of currency, because they can do this in 49 different currencies. You sort out the issue of whether I can do it in another country because they're operating in 190 plus different countries. You have another headache of, will my money reach? Yes, it will. And you don't have to worry about hidden charges or expensive charges. It's VertoFX, the platform that's making cross-border payments so much more comfortable for businesses at small, medium, or large levels. And so you don't have to worry about what the traditional issues would have been over time. VertoFX is what you want to do for your business today. Get more information on www.vertofx.com. CT, you've been throwing diamonds. Before we were waving a wand, now you're just tossing them from the skies. Go.
Well, you know, when an opportunity arises and it presents itself with clarity, that indeed is akin to throwing diamonds at someone. The opportunities we're talking about here is that of owning a house.
Yes.
And Diamond Trust is saying we have a mortgage plan that can enable you to do this. And it matters not that you are self-employed or you are employed or that you're in the diaspora. There is a possibility that once you engage with us and we understand what your needs are, we are able to offer you up to 105% if you are employed. That is the mortgage. Mm-hmm. If you're in the diaspora, we are able to offer you 80% of what it is you need. And Diamond Trust says, look, we'll do you one better. We will ensure that everything that we're telling you is it. There are no hidden charges, none whatsoever. But we'll add a little cherry on top. And we're saying that there'll be no hidden charges. If you pay ahead of the schedule that we've agreed on, we won't penalize you for it.
Right. And
we will only charge you 9% if you take a mortgage for 10 years, and we'll only charge you 9.75% if you take a mortgage for 25 years. Now, that percentage will remain constant. It will not change over time. Now, why don't you just visit any Diamond Trust Bank branch and inquire for more details, as we say, or better still, let your fingers do the walking. Send an email.
There you go.
mortgages@dtbafrica.com.
There you go. And that's the way to go about it, right? We are climbing the mountain, or climbing up the mountain, or climbing down the mountain. Well, there's a mountain and we're doing something with it, that's for sure, this hour. And that has been done. That has the conversation that has been in, political circles for the longest of times. This mountain doesn't ever actually seem to disappear from top of the agenda or from our lips either. And the Member of Parliament for Kiambaa constituency is John Juguna Kawajiko. I said that last part right. And he's in the hot seat this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, do.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Karibu sana.
It's my first time to be in SpiceFM. And I will really follow you. Actually, we appreciate what you do most of the time, especially the discussion that you had with Buddy the other day.
Yes.
It was very enlightening. We were able to pick quite a number of things of what is happening within the Republic. So we normally follow keenly to make sure that we are also getting that opportunity to learn and understand, because we may not be everywhere.
Yeah.
But you get an opportunity to understand what is happening on different parts of the country as far as the government is concerned and the national politics is concerned.
That's great.
And I really appreciate what you're doing here.
Well, thank you for coming in, and thanks for letting us know that. I mean, it just gives us the oomph to keep doing it, every day. Asante sana for that.
Please do, yes.
Before we welcome you properly, you got to tell us Kawajiko.
Then I'm saying that you have to ask this question. I come from one community that is very interesting. My name is John Juguna Wanjiko. That's what my ideal is.
Yes.
And during my by-election, I had an opportunity to try to see which political name gonna be using, so that at least people can be able to pick it up very fast and move with it. Because people need to remember you within a certain name, maybe a political name. When you tell people John Juguna Wanjiko, they're like, it's not coming out. So during the by-election, that is 2021, we had an opportunity to, between Jubilee and UDA, we met at a certain place. And that place that Jubilee had a lot of muscles. It came with a lot, with mighty, especially because it was being supported by the government. Then there were so many lorries, vehicles, and all that. And as we were just in a small corner trying to persuade people why they should elect us, then all of a sudden the MC who was reading our team started saying car. People started calling me Ka.
That little thing.
As a small person, comparing to the people who have been before me. Like so. Kina Mbio Koinange, Jenga Karume, Stanley Munga Githogori, and I'm a certain hustler who is just trying life and saying, you know what, I want to try this world of politics. So other people are like, I mean, you're not like those we have had before. So they gave me the name of, coming from the small clan probably, and also not having serious political muscles that were there before me. So I'm like, okay, this is a small person, let us try and help him. That's when the name Ka came in before Wanjiko. And because now we were also politicizing and doing our politics with the name of Wanjiko, and I was having that name as per ID, they were like, Ako come to Ka Wanjiko, Ako. Let us try and help him. So that's where that's why the name Ka Wanjiko came from.
And it seems to have stuck.
And it has stuck. People don't know John, people don't know Jogona. If you tell people, if I go to my cousin and say, who is your member of parliament? Ama John is here, Ama Jogona is here, they don't understand who that is. But the moment you tell them Ka Wanjiko, they know that that's my brand name.
Sawa. So now we'll give you some work to do. CT goes around the continent every week.
Yes.
And he has a proverb that he wants to share with you, and then you can interpret that and tell us what you think. Is that all right?
Okay.
CT, please give Kawajiko the proverb for today.
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the land of honest people.
Honest people.
Yes, otherwise known as Burkina Faso. Now, this name is derived from two communities, the Maore language and the Dula language. So, Burkina comes from the Maore community, and Faso comes from the Dula community. Maore are a very populous group in Burkina Faso. Now, a little homework for you. Do you know what Burkina Faso was called before it was called Burkina Faso?
I'm not a good student of history, no.
Do not worry about it. I will assist you. It's called
Upper Volta.
Yeah.
It's called Upper Volta. That's what it was called. And when Thomas Sankara became president, he decided this Upper Volta thing wasn't working for us. Yes, he decided to give it a name that made more sense. The proverb: if you look for trouble, you will not miss it.
Actually, I think we have a similar saying in our community. Yeah, if you look for trouble, you can't miss it. If I want to see something bad in you, I won't miss anything, because you can't be 100% perfect. So ours, we normally interpret it, whatever you're looking for, you find it.
How would you say it?
How in Kikuyu?
Yes.
Ugetha urudoge wa, kana kiri ugetha dhini wa kwa doge kiara. Yani whatever you are looking for, you find whether you are looking for perfection, you'll see some type of a perfection in me. But if you really want to concentrate on the bad side of me, you will get it. You will find it. You will find it because in our mother tongues, we normally say that no person is 100% perfect.
And it would say it again, how in Kikuyu? That's exactly how I would have said it.
Yeah.
It's true. You're right. It's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
I would have said it that way.
Yeah, so whatever you, whether I'm the best person, you know, and I normally say it because most of the time you realize that there is a way we are able to interact. And you wonder, these two people have been friends for so long. What happens? Because maybe probably you decided to concentrate on the negative pattern because no one is 100% perfect.
True.
So whatever you are looking for in me, you'll still find. If you want to see the good side of me, you will always see it. If you want to see the bad side of me, you'll always see it. So it depends with you, how do you want to package me as far as my relationship with you is concerned. So if you're looking for trouble, you'll find trouble. You'll find trouble.
That's true. Okay.
Yes.
So for the longest time,
yes.
You see now it has already stuck.
Yes.
Kawajiko.
Exactly. That's my name now.
For the longest time, when we talk about politics and the bringing together of regions to have either political discourse or political participation, we can't get rid of the mountain. Not that everybody wanted to get rid of the mountain, but there's always been part and parcel of the conversation. And let's just start off this conversation as we get into it before we talk about this division or not. That why we don't hear people talking about the sea part of the country. Oh, let's bring in the coast. We don't hear people talking about the lake. We don't hear people talking about the mountainous region. We about the northern. We don't hear it as much as we do with the mountain. What gives?
I think because probably to our proximity to the city, we have been more, and especially also because of our numbers, that sometimes it becomes so difficult for you to assume the mountain. And our politics is diverse, especially when it talks about we try as much as they can to be civilized as far as politics is concerned. But the concern is that one, you cannot assume the mountain because of its numbers, and number two, because when it comes to voting, we normally voters are broke. The moment we all agree that this is the direction we're gonna take, so we take that direction. And if you persuade us enough, we are able to follow you, we are able to follow development politics. Mostly in our region, it has always been about development politics. But for now, we have started to see something different. It's not no longer about development politics.
Is that really true? That the mountain has always voted as a bloc?
Majority. Let me paraphrase my word. Majority have voted as a bloc. Because if you look at the numbers if you look since time immemorial, and you start looking at during the Jomo Kenyatta's time, you come to Mwai Kibaki's time, when we had only I'm not that old.
No, do not worry. In the Jomo Kenyatta time, there was a single party.
Yes. Kanu and Kadu.
Yes. No, that was before.
Yes.
The moment that was when he was prime minister. The moment Jomo Kenyatta became president, we had a party, one. It was called KANU.
Yes.
And we had it right up until the time when Moi became president. It was still one party.
Yes.
Yes. And if you look at the voting patterns, that, as you say, it is true. People tended to vote for the party.
Yes.
You see?
Exactly.
So even the candidates were party candidates. It's when we had multipartyism that now the discussion of how people voting could come about. And even when multi-party came about, the unity of voting, so long as that region always had two candidates.
Two candidates, yes.
So when you had two candidates, that vote was divided.
Yes.
The time when that changed was after 2002.
Mwai Kibaki's time.
Mwai Kibaki stood against Uhuru in 2000.
Yes.
So there were two. Before that, you had Kibaki, you had Matiba.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, when you go to after Kibaki, that's when what you're saying now became a reality.
Absolutely. Yes. I agree with you. And thanks for correction, because I think I started voting during Uhuru Kenyatta's time. But maybe probably I'm a student of history. You can be able to learn a few things. But even during that time when we had only two candidates, you could tell where the majorities are. Because during the Uhuru Kenyatta's and Kibaki's time, many people decided to work with Kibaki at that particular time. So right now, that That's one of the reasons why, because even during this 2022, actually the only time I think we have voted as a bloc as one is during the Uhuru Kenyatta's time, without being divided across whether you are whether it is Raila. We didn't have any other candidate apart from Uhuru Kenyatta. But this time around 2022, even if we're able to give William Ruto quite a number of votes, there was also a good amount of numbers, size of about a vote of numbers, who also went to vote for Raila Odinga to a tune of about a million votes. So, but now because of the numbers that we have, sometimes it becomes, whether you want to ignore or not, you feel like you cannot be able to ignore these people. If you're able to convince them to vote to you as a bloc, then you are certain that at the end of the day, they're going to give you a sizable good number of votes.
You also seem to use it sometimes as a political carrot that you dangle, and you say, you know what, we will do what we wish because we have the numbers and we have proximity to whatever. You use it as a political carrot often, don't you?
Definitely, we normally use it because we want to intimidate, and sometimes we want to influence sometimes the decisions that are being made as far as the national politics is concerned. Because at the end of the day, there is that aspect of if you don't, and that's what is happening currently. If you hear the undertones that are happening within the community and the politicians within the area, is that we have one agenda, and our agenda is to remove William Ruto. We don't have to. And you had also another governor talking and saying that, you know, even if you do quite kind of a development that you're trying to do within your constituent, it does not matter as far as you are not aligning to this person. So for the first time, I think we are having interesting times that are on the way, whereby that the development, the politics of development will not matter, because for us, it has always been selling and marketing. What can you be able to do as far as your people are concerned? And you convince your people that I want you to elect me because I want to do 1, 2, 3 things as far as this region is concerned. But for the first time, we are hearing that one will not matter in the coming election. What will matter is if you're my follower or not. And then, number 2, I'll also sit down and decide whether it is you I'm going to elect, or it is who is going to be elected or not. It's not even about the people. You know, we are having very interesting time, It's not about the people. It's not about the will of the people. It's not about what you can be able to do for your people. But we are hearing undertones that if you don't follow me, and that's where the lane started beating us. Even during after 2022 election, majority of us as leaders, there was a lot of threats that have given you up to December. If you want to be following me, if you won't be doing A, B, C, D, I'll not be, you know, people will not reelect you. It will no longer matter whether you build roads, whether you build schools, whether you take care of your people as far as health is concerned.
So that is the change that is happening.
That is the change.
But when you started in your preliminary remarks, you said persuading you. All right. And if you're convinced enough, but I'm curious, because now you're saying it will not really matter.
Not what I'm saying. What is being said.
Now, you being a member of parliament, who is a leader in your own, right? How should it be? Because electors who are listening to you right now are saying, either way, we have to elect you. You need to work. We just had the registrar of political parties here talking about ideologies and principles. And now all this is happening, and it is essentially dividing Mount Kenya. Is it? Is that what you're saying?
That's actually exactly what I'm trying to say.
All right.
You see, before, it has always been about, even when we're trying to persuade our people to follow William Ruto, we were just talking about the development agenda of the people. It's not because it was not based on the tribal. It was not based on, as a Kikuyu, this is, you have to follow. And that's why we even opposed Uhuru Kenyatta during his time and saying that, you know, you have to elect this person, you have to elect, I'm going to go with Raila Odinga. And as we decided, you know what, because we have listened to William, we want to follow this guy because of what he's selling to us as a community. What is he giving? What is he offering to us as a community? And, you know, politics is local. So when I can be able to tabulate and say, as far as my local area is concerned, William has promised we didn't have TVET, we didn't have KMTC, we didn't have roads. And then then when I'm campaigning and try to tell my people, you know what, the moment that this government is erected, these are the things that we're going to be doing. But now, the surprising thing is that now what we are we are hearing now is that those things in the coming election, even moving forward, they don't matter. What matters is where you are king, all your reader, all person who perpetuate to be your reader, is that is what will matter in the clear by-election.
I'm sorry.
So it is surprising, actually, that we have never had such kind of politics within the mountain for the longest time possible.
Never.
We have never had such. Even
so what are you saying? That the politics within the mountain was really about development and really searching to make sure that the people...
Absolutely.
So why then do you have leaders such as yourself or others who sit in those positions who are allowing this to happen? Kenyans depend on you for representation.
Absolutely.
Kenyans depend on you for legislation.
Absolutely.
And here we are saying, well, the wave of politics is sweeping us in a different direction, and we too, like the wind and the waves, are being tossed about. But that's okay.
But I can confirm to you that's why majority of us are not on that line. They are not following such a kind of a politics, because sometimes even if you want to convince people and to lie to them that the politics of the development will not matter, because we have been asking our people, what did we agree on? We have given this guy called William Ruto an opportunity to be the president. What is it that he has not been able to do for us? And when we asked that question before we even impeached the former deputy president, we asked him, because now you want us to get out of the government. And we want to go back again and tell the people, the reason why we want to get out of this government is because of 1, 2, 3 things. So what will he tell them? That we have asked from the government, and the government has refused to do for us, and that for that reason, that is the reason why we want to get out of the government. But when you talk to majority of us as members of parliament, we are still aligned to the politics of development. That's why we are still stuck.
Okay, let's take this bit by bit, shall we?
Yeah.
From your own admission, what you're saying is that the wave previously was you are the favorite Kawajiko in your constituency, Kiamba, right?
Yes.
Now, there is the wave that you go with from who wants to be president. We can pretend, but that's the truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
That it matters who's running for president, and you're going to be aligned on one side or the other.
Absolutely.
So you've gone to the people of Kiamba and say, as you vote me, also vote William Ruto, because he has said he's going to do 1, 2, 3.
Absolutely.
Now, tell me, what 1, 2, 3 has then been achieved for your people that you can say, okay, this is actually, I was able to bring that. And I'm asking that question because I want to understand why you would be able to come back to the same people and say, take somebody else because this will happen.
I can tell you there are 3 things. I'm 4 things that actually, and this one I'll actually go, devolve it to my constituency, because that's where the politics is. And when I tell the people that the reason why I want you to elect William Ruto is because of 1, 2, 3, we have quite a number of roads. That's number 1. That were not done by the previous government.
Like which one?
There is a load from Gashie, Karura, a place called Gasharage, that was a thorn in the flesh. Even during the election, we could not hold an election, because we're telling people, those 9 months that I was elected as a member of parliament, we were expecting that probably the then government, Lijin, will help us to construct that road. It was not done. But as we speak, I told them I will never play politics with this road, because when you elect William, we're going to persuade him the reason why he should be able to help us build this road. That road has been done and dusted. We have another road that is ongoing called Mushada Kayafa. I saw it even on the news the other day when people were here on KTN, people demonstrating. And if you look at it, majority of those demonstrations, they are geared towards a certain member of parliament, because our people think and believe that a member of parliament is the only person who can bring development to the constituency. If you talk about the people who elected me, that's number 1. We didn't have a TVET in my constituency.
In Kiamba. Since
where?
No.
Yes.
Kiamba did not have
a
TVET.
TVET.
Okay, what did Kiamba have?
0. I'm telling you, in terms of development, we've been so backward. Yes. In terms of projects.
You know why I ask is because of the leaders Kiamba has had in the past.
Absolutely. That's what I'm telling you.
So essentially, we're saying they did not very much.
We are. If you compare Kiamba and other constituencies, you will really appreciate other people, because from where we are, we have a lot of work to do. If you look at our schools, the conditions, the status have been terrible. So one of those things, we didn't have a TVET. Now a TVET is ongoing. We had a KMTC that was done in a local high school. Now we have gotten 200 million that we are constructing a very serious KMTC to help our people. The moment they finish class 8 from 4, some can be able to access education without the education being that costly. Now the construction of that KMTC is ongoing. Through the NGCDF, Kiamba is the only constituency now that we are not requesting for school fees. In all our day schools, we have scrapped off the school fees. Having a sit down with all the principals, sitting down and agreeing, these kind of bursary that we normally give you, What do you normally do with it?
These are things that the president said he was going to do.
No, some probably they depend with the reader. They depend with you as a person.
It depends
because
on
who it is. Because at the end of the day, even if the president says that I'll build that TVET, it is incumbent upon you as a member of parliament to go and start robbing for that TVET. Yes, you have to rob for it. Because there is no way the resources will be divided and like, which constituency doesn't have? No. A lot of the development that you see in every single constituency, it has a lot to do with the member of parliament.
Let's take a break on this point because then we're going to come back and then look at going into because as far as what we see, an election could happen tomorrow and all of y'all would be ready. From what we are seeing today, and then ask the question, okay, well, it seems as though there's division in this mountain where you said have always voted as a bloc. The member of parliament for Kiambaa constituency is our guest this hour, John Njuguna Kawajiko. See, I'm really messed it up. But we continue anyway, and we'll come back from that break and look into those. The KCB Foundation, through the 2G program, is welcoming young people between the ages of 18 and 35 and saying, you know what, you can plug into this as well. You have an opportunity to get the much needed skills that you would need to get into the job market or into the business world, and they're going to hold your hand every step of the way. Get onto the website www.kcbgroup.com/foundation.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Nairobi at 17, it's 17 in Nakuru, and we'll see highs of 29 and lows of 13 in Nyeri. We'll see highs of 28 and lows of 13 in a sunny Eldoret, while into Mombasa, we'll see highs of 34 and lows of 25. Malindi is sunny with highs of 32 and lows of 26, and we'll see highs of 34 and lows of 19. Kakamega will see highs of 37 and lows of 16 through Monday, while into Kampala, we'll see highs of 30 and lows of 19. Dar es Salaam will go to highs of 33 and lows of 27, while we're looking into a mostly cloudy Johannesburg with highs of 22 and lows of 16. Mogadishu will see highs of 32 and lows of 25. Into Addis Ababa, where highs will go to 26 and lows of 14. Lagos will see highs of 33 and lows of 27, while Kinshasa will see highs of 33 and lows of 24. It is still pretty busy this morning, and we're looking at traffic on the Thika Superhighway today that has come in all the way from that Roiro interchange, and it's starting to now stave off as you get towards the Allsops Junction, and then reduces as you get towards Survey. It's going to pick up a little bit towards the Pangani Underpass. Onto Hulu Highway, and traffic coming in from Aerodrome, coming off of Mombasa Road, and also Langata Road is going to be quite sticky here as you try to get towards the CBD. It's heavy on Magadi Road coming in from Multimedia University out towards the Galleria Mall and then onto Langata Road. So those are our trouble spots this morning. Traffic is also coming in from Waiyaki Way, and it's busy as you get towards Lower Kabete, Spring Valley, and into Limuru Road. Let's keep talking and keep moving. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 27 minutes to 9 o'clock, and the Member of Parliament for Kiambaa constituency, John Njuguna Kawajiko, is our guest this hour, and getting into the politics of the day and asking ourselves questions around, okay, so this mountain that everybody keeps talking about. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has said the other day, well, you know what, you can come or not. This area needs a leader, and I am the one. Others are saying, well, maybe not so much. If we're going to go with what you're saying, is it the first time that we would see a split in how the mountain then voted or behaved politically?
You know, for the first time, I think most during, if you look at our politics before, we have always had a successor, someone who comes after the other one. During the Uhuru Kenyatta's time, he was not able to mentor, to leave someone behind. Kibaki left him behind, so he was able to consolidate the mountain and rally the mountains behind him. Now, at this particular time, everybody is struggling to become the leader. And don't have to say that you're the leader. You just need to do what you need to do.
You just need to be the leader.
Yeah, people will follow you. You don't even have to tell me, follow me. If you don't follow me, then you're in the long camp. People will definitely rally behind you the moment that they realize that you're the type of a person or type of a leader that you want. So these threats and intimidations, as far as leaders, if you don't follow me, you're not going to be re-elected. And we were telling people yesterday in a certain factions, when it comes to about the election, it has so many aspects and angles when it comes to an election. But now we are witnessing whereby that each and every day is about a threat. And I sympathize with the president, because now you're being intimidated by people who are telling you, don't dare come to the mountain. If you come, you're going to face this and these consequences. But you're telling the president, continue being objective and continue doing what you're supposed to do as far as the politics of development is concerned. Because the time for politicking will come. And we're going to get into those cars, all of us.
Will come?
Yeah. Whatever is happening, it is one-man show.
Oh, come on.
Okay. Yeah. Right now, and I was telling my people, because even now, we are not doing that hyped politics, that type of politics. And it takes, let me tell you, it takes 3 months for people to change a course in an election. Even one day is such a big time. Before, and I can tell you, we started and you look at the politics of William Ruto and us, we started the campaigning since 2018. But if you look at the numbers that elected William, we were expecting to get about the whole block, about 60-70% of the votes. But people still were somehow persuaded by Uhuru Kenyatta that, I think Azimio is the best. People started changing their mind slowly. If that election took maybe another 1 month or 2 months, maybe the result we got from the mountain would be different from what we got at that particular time. So at this time, I think there are so many things that people are looking up to. They are looking at the stalled projects, because the politics has been about the loads in our constituencies, in our region. You hear what we call the Mau Mau projects, and I hear now the president saying that he has been able to get the money. People have been like, okay, the reason why we support the government is because of development. So if there is no development, then that means as well, let us go and politicize. But slowly by slowly, people have started to see the sense.
So I'm going to ask the question again.
Yes.
Would this be the first time that we would see the mountain split in terms of what you've told us, that you always vote as a bloc?
Yeah.
Because there must be, look, it's not possible for somebody to stand somewhere and see no people. Something is fueling
this. Absolutely.
Something is fueling this position that he's taken to say that there's a huge following. Something is fueling that.
Yeah.
So there are some people who adhere or who then embrace whatever it is what ideology he's sharing.
Definitely.
So would it be the first time that we'd see a split? Because you're saying that, there's no leader.
Yeah. Definitely, because of tough economic times that has been there as a country. It's not only about the mountain, it has been about this country. We have been able to experience tough times as far as the economy of this country is concerned. So someone took advantage of that situation, and especially when people were saying about the finance bill, how do we support our country, how do we move forward as a nation? As we speak, majority of the people probably they are divided, saying that we don't know what comes 2027, but as per now, I think this person is making sense, this other person is making sense. And the only way you can be able to quantify the following is through the voting. People are making noise. People will have their own opinion. People will say what they need to say. But you cannot say that because we are listening to you, we're going to vote you. Have you ever, I don't know whether you have been in a situation whereby someone is he has a very serious following. Yeah? But when it comes to people erecting, they elect the other person, not him, the person who was having the following. So sometimes there is a gap in between, and you cannot be able to tell whether the following can be able to be converted into votes. Because there is what the ideal thing, they're like, hey, this guy is charming. When he takes the mic, people feel electrified. But when it comes to vote, you sit down and say, okay, is this the right person that I would really want him to be my reader? And that does not translate into votes.
But let me ask the question.
Yes.
In the time when I was young as you are, which was in the previous century,
yes,
there was this talk that one heard.
Yes.
Around the time when Jomo Kenyatta was president, it was talk.
Yeah.
That the presidency would never pass the Chania River.
Yeah.
There was that talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And there are those who argued it caused a bit of a division. There are also those who pointed out that during that particular time, the number of ministers in that government from Kiambu were very many. There were actually many.
Yes.
Moranga had one minister.
Yeah.
Okay? It was called Kiano.
Yeah.
Nyeri had one minister. He was called Kibaki. Embu had one minister. He was called Jeremiah Nyaga. Meru had one minister. He was called Harvester Angaine. Mountain. Dandas, Nyandarua, well, they were there. So, Kibaki became president, so clearly the Chania River was crossed. Then there was also another argument. This one I now heard in this century, that Nyeri have had a president, Kiambu have had two
presidents.
Muranga
family.
Now, Muranga, surely. Isn't it about time that we also got ourselves a president, or are we going to be playing the role of always supporting other people? Is this something which is just mere talk, or is it something that within the realms of political discussion people have had? And if it is the case, then right now, given the talk of that one hears daily, because the deputy president will be heard, even if you don't want to hear him, you will hear him, because he talks every day. Okay?
The former. Are you talking about the former?
I meant former. Okay. You know, this thing is former. It's former. No. So all I'm saying is, he's from Nyeri. So the argument could be, but you know, Nyeri, you guys have had your turn, because you talk about turns.
Yes.
Now, the things that I've just said, do they play any part in the political discussions in the mountain?
I think they do, because I was privileged when we were nominating the former deputy president at Kalem. Some of the topics that came when William was deciding who is going to be the deputy president is that we can't take Kiambu. Kiambu, they have had their lion's share. So even if we had a good candidate, probably the people who are from Kiambu, we had Kimani Shungwa and the rest. So he could not be considered into that equation, because now you guys have had this thing. So then came Muranga and Nyeri. So when you talked about Muranga, Didi Nyoro was considered, but not because of the age. They're like, people will say that, age is a factor as far as the deputy president is concerned. So that's how he was eliminated. So we were left between Professor and the former deputy president. And now, because of his persuasive talk, he's able to persuade people. And people voted, and probably people thought that if we elect someone from the east, that is Meru and Embu, maybe the other side might think, you know what, it will not be able to give you the votes, because Uhuru Kenyatta was persuading this other side to vote for Azimio. So there were some balances that were to be done. So that talk is there. It is something that people are talking about even now, and saying, where is the future of our legion? Where does the future of our legion lie? Right. And that's how you cannot assume people like Dede Nyoro, because at the end of the day, because of their age, and having come from Muranga, and Muranga felt like we have never had this thing, so he's still being mentioned by many that probably one day he might, take the mantle of leadership as far as this country is concerned. So those talks are there, but moving forward, that's why even when he was nominated, the former was nominated to be the deputy president, and he persuaded people that in a meeting that, I know many of you did not vote for me because we did a vote, but I feel persuaded we need to win this election, because number two is not winning. You cannot say that I tried, I came number two in an election. Winning is winning. You have to make sure that you win. And so when you did all the maths, we say, okay, we have no alternative. Let us do what we need to do. Okay. So that discussion was there. That discussion is there as even now, and people are asking now. Because we have seen, if you look at even the age bracket of the people who are contending and calling themselves the leaders, you can say, because people want to rely so much on the future. Because currently, whatever is happening within our lives, it doesn't really matter. You can't change much. But the moment you start thinking about the future, you must also start persuading people towards a certain direction. Okay, so I agree with you. That discussion is there. Kiambu maybe will be included in the talk. Maybe be included in the talk. Eastern, they are also planning themselves and saying, guys, you have supported you for the longest time possible. We have given you our votes, and the moment when you're voting, we are called the mountain. But when it comes to the sharing of the national cake, we are not considered now. We are no longer the mountain. So that discussion in there.
Let me bring up this historical perspective. Do you I believe you're familiar with the 1969 oath? Do you remember that oath?
I don't know. Maybe unless.
Okay. But you do realize that in the blueprint of how Mount Kenya has been involved in politics, there's a particular point in time where there's an oath that you will vote in a particular way.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And this has somewhat, because it's history, it's now changing with generations, which worked, I think, at some point really well for Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yes.
But here we are now with this kinship conversation, which seems to be still haunting this area. And that's why you're seeing some leaders saying, I am the king, I am the leader here. I have been, the elders are recognizing me in this particular way. And I just want to understand how you would interpret what that has done to today, all right? And why there's so much you're saying we cannot ignore Ndindi Nyoro, we cannot ignore, but now there has been that pattern.
I tend to believe, because I think the majority of the voters, like now you are telling me about an oath that happened in 1969.
Way
I have
back.
no clue what it is all about.
Okay.
If you look at the majority of our voters, they're in that bracket between now 18 to maybe probably around 45 there. That's where the majority are. And if you're in that bracket, I can tell you no one has an idea of what is happening. And if you see, because the way that our politics has been controlled or done, that's why you have had people calling themselves Mau Mau, Itugati, Komerera. You know, it's a conversation that you're like, okay, what were those? You know, what were Komelelas? What were Itugatis? What, you know, majority of the people, and that's why people are like, we want to be development oriented type of leaders.
We want to be.
So we are. Actually, we are. No, actually, we are.
Okay.
But when you bring now the politics of the tribals and talk about Mau Mau, we need to go back to the history, start reading the history books and say, okay, what were Itungati? And you start asking your grandmother and your grandfather. So when it comes to Itungati, what were those? And the people, kind of people we're going to be competing with, they're the young generation. So they will be asking you, what is it that you're going to do for us differently from other leaders?
But I have to ask the question.
But unfortunately, as you also ask, it's somehow, and we are waiting to see whether this politics will be like others, whereby you congregate around tribal politics.
And that's my problem. And that's my problem.
Whether people don't.
No. That you're waiting to see what this politics will do.
Yeah.
And there's no time like the present to be involved in, because if we take people like you and others, you know, in the same space.
Yeah.
When we have these political conversations and you have all of this political activity, one really then needs to ask, what happened to the job that Kenyans gave you? What happens to the things that you're supposed to be doing on a daily basis, where you spend 90% of your time involved in all of this political innuendo, political activity, when you're seeing who touched the mountain or who didn't, who's trying to level the mountain, who's trying to sink it, whereby by your own admission, you have an entire constituency that doesn't have a TVET for very many people who live in that part of the country. Shouldn't that be the focus?
Absolutely. That is the focus. That's why we are saying.
No, but clearly it's not.
No, for me, let me tell you, for me, development is key, because at the end of the day, you'll have a legacy to leave behind. You know, people will not be like, hey, you are erected because of certain issues. Ama, we erected you because you followed a certain person. That is the reason why we're going to give you our vote. I don't think that's where we are. It has to do with more. What is it you're going to do for us? And that's why I'm persuaded that being in government is the best thing, because we'll be able to get the things that you're not being able to get. I cannot be able to compare myself with other leaders, but I have a responsibility myself as Kawanjiku. I'll be asked a question after 5 years. What is it we are able to deliver? Because we erected you to deliver 1, 2, 3 things. When we are giving you our votes, when we are lending our votes to you, what is it that you are able to do at that particular time? So even if the politics of development is what is happening now, maybe, because we don't know what will happen in the future, and we don't know how the politics will be at that particular time, because we're going to be here, God willing, it will be quite unfortunate that we're going to start now congregating around the tribal lines, not because of the development agenda and what you want to deliver to your people. Because if I deliver that TVET, if I deliver that KMTC, if they deliver that load that probably has, been a thorn in the flesh, the community that lives around those lines, they will also be able to benefit from those developments that we are talking about. But unfortunately, politics is rocco. That times when politics comes, people will start now being persuaded or to be aligned within a certain direction. And that's what I'm saying. Maybe that time, when that time comes, people will not think about development. I'm waiting to see for the first time. Or probably it will be about tribal. Which tribe are you coming from? If you're Laluya, you follow Musaria, you follow Etangura, you're going to be re-elected. If you're Laluo, you have to follow Baba. Even if you build a railway, even if you build an airport within your constituency, if you're not aligned with Baba, you're not going to be re-elected. And that's why we have quite a number of members of parliament who have been elected with Jubilee Party, independent party, even within our legion, because of their development record, what they were able to do when they were members of parliament. And some of those things, they are existing.
Let me talk about development, because now, speak to me as a layman, an electorate. Because first when you started, you said it's very important that you show people what you have done.
Yes.
And I think one of my colleagues has brought up, or yourself, you brought up the idea of sharing the cake. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, one of the grounds on which he was impeached was the tribal kind of conversation, shareholding kind of conversation. Now, Member of Parliament, you're saying people associate you with some type of development. They see you, they want to see development. The leadership will then guarantee development.
Yes.
And now I am curious here, because in that shareholding conversation, as a Member of Parliament, because there's development funds for every part of this country, regardless of
where you come from,
the lobbying amount you do. Okay, so I'm curious to understand, what you meant by you have to get a share of your cake for your people, so that you have something to show. In other words, instead of just using what is yours constitutionally and making use of it, NGCDF, etc.
You know,
what is different? Your lobbying category and what is provided.
You know, it's also within a certain percentage of development that we get through NGCDF.
Okay.
That is guaranteed for every member of parliament. But beyond that, beyond the whatever is guaranteed, you must also try. The bigger cake is left with the national government.
You visit the State House?
You not even the State House. You visit the ministries. You visit the departments. If, for example, I'm interested in TVET, I need to go and look at the master plan of the Ministry of Education. How many TVETs are you going to budget for this particular year? What do I need to do for me to make sure that part of this TVET that you have allocated budget for, because you have the national budget, part of it will come to my constituents, because there is a need. I go to the Ministry of Health and ask them, you are doing satellite campuses. And one of the things that I want to understand is that why is it possible for my constituents also to be given the opportunity of hosting another satellite campus? Majority of these things extra, apart from whatever is given by the NGs, even in terms of the load. Even if you keep complaining and saying there is what the ministry does, there is maybe their budget and their planning, as far as Kiambu is concerned, as far as Nairobi is concerned, but it takes effort also for you to go extra mile, because at the end of the day, they will allocate these resources on the need basis. So if I'm able to raise my stake and say, because of where I come from, and because I have been having this and this trouble, and I'm in this government, I'm requesting probably, can I get 2 kilometers of road? Can I get 5 kilometers of road?
So it's like a bidding process.
You have to, it's unfortunate, but you have to keep pushing for these things. Because when you look at, but if you expect things to, to move themselves up, to work on their own, you'll be in trouble, because at the end of the day, you show nothing. You'll have nothing to show, because our local politics dictates that you have to go.
You have to lobby.
You have to lobby.
Okay.
That is unfortunate.
So which takes precedent over the other? That you have to be in the good books of the leader of the day in order to get certain things done. Do you pledge your allegiance in order for that to happen, or do you pledge your allegiance for a personal outlook? You pledge your allegiance so that you can get something for your people?
Why? I'll answer that question with another question. The reason why people look for government sometimes, there is what the presidency always say, that the moment you're elected as a leader, you need to balance. And that's what the president has been trying to persuade us. Sometimes we may feel like, no, we don't want to accommodate
Which
others.
President?
The
current president.
The current president.
Okay.
I may be persuaded that we don't need this broad base, because when the broad base comes to the government, it's going to take whatever we were getting. It's like you trying to adopt another two-child. Maybe the mother, or probably the person who has been born in that house feel like, now this person is coming to take my bread, take my milk, because now I'll have to share. We have gotten 2-3 more friends who have joined us as a family. So the ideal thing is that we would really oppose the broad base, because at the end of the day, we want to get the lion's share of the development in terms of, we tell the president, you know what, if you want us to re-elect you in 2027, this is our minimum bargain. You have to give us 1, 2, 3 things. And I think that's where it goes, the president like, okay, even if I really want this, I must also try to equalize the country and make sure that the development is devolved into all regions, because they are also taxpayers. No matter the fact that this region elected me, this region did not elect me, but they are taxpayers as well. So the moment you become a leader, you must try as much as you can to equalize the resources and development as far as the government is concerned.
Based
but
on
for
that,
me,
do you think that Kenyans should then trust you?
Yeah.
Not just, I'm saying you as a representative word here. Do you think then Kenyans should trust you based on the things that you've said? When we talk about, so I mean, from what you're saying, the mountain in terms of who's going to divide it or not, or touch it or whatever, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, does it?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
So should Kenyans then trust you in terms of what you're saying now, again, representative noun here, that you're actually interested in the development of Kenya's people, in the representation of Kenya's people, in legislating that's going to be for the best interest of Kenya's people, and that this mountain geography talk really doesn't matter?
Definitely, I think they should, because at the end of the day, the reason why we have an election is because sometimes you have to sit down and persuade people the reason why they should elect you. That's number one. That's on the platform that you're elected on. People need to hear. Even if we are giving you our vote, say yes. Even if we have agreed we're gonna re-elect you, we need to hear what exactly are you going to do for this legion. So and when it comes to a member of parliament, politics now gets local, because I cannot start talking about Nairobi and that's not where I'm elected. I cannot start talking about Bungoma and that's not where I'm elected. I can only talk about the national outlook as far as the law is concerned. But when it comes to lead development, I can only go and look for resources for my constituency, or maybe even if I go an extra mile, it's for the county, because politics is local. And the way the politics have been designed is that every member of parliament have a responsibility to look for development for his or her people, whether you're in opposition or whether you're in government. So there is that element that, you have to trust us in a way. And you listen to us, because that's what inform your decision. Because at the end of the day, we will have to do an election. We will have to elect someone at the end of the 5 years. So what is there for us is, what is it we are going to talk about? And when you listen to me, do I make sense in terms of what your expectations are? If your expectations are aligned with me, and I say, for example, if you give me an opportunity, I'll build TVET, I'll do roads, and maybe after this 5 years, I can be able to show what I told you that I will do, then I think I stand to be trusted as a reader.
Right.
But if whatever I pushed for, or I told you, or I promised I'll do, I've not been able even to achieve 30 or 40%, then it means that I cannot be trusted, even promising you that I'm going to bring heaven down after the next election.
It's very interesting how people come together to form political parties. You belong to you align yourself with a political party for a reason. And I'm curious to understand what amounts to betrayal in as far as politics is concerned, because you've had that narrative before. You have betrayed the mountain. This is what you promised the mountain. Be careful not to betray my people. What amounts to betrayal?
That's my point. If you listen to the betrayal, betrayal comes when your people are betrayed.
How?
And when your people are betrayed on what level?
Yes.
That's my convert.
Yes.
That's my asking. Is it? And that's what I was saying. Is it because we promised roads and we have not been able to deliver?
Yes.
Is it because we asked for school and we have not been able to deliver?
Yes.
Is it because you asked for a certain portfolio and you are not able? Then we can say, as a community, you have betrayed us, because whatever you promised, you have not been able to do. But if betrayal, when you're talking betrayal is about me, myself, and I, and now I want to involve the community in me, myself, and I, then I think that is not a betrayal, because there is what we could be working together, a good relationship between me and Doreen. And it doesn't amount that my community now, because I'm their member of parliament, they are behind my relationship, whatever we have, an engagement we have between me and Doreen. And if there is anything personal between us two, that probably did not work, it is long for me to start involving the whole community in my personal battles. So it is always good to define things and say, for this reason, that's why this amount to betrayal. But you cannot talk about betrayal when it is all about yourself.
Mheshimiwa, this view that you express is very logical. And it's not difficult to understand. But if in 1 minute
Less.
How broad a base of people do you think support this view that you have?
Not many. Yeah, and that's the reality. That's a fact. Not many. Not many. But it's incumbent upon us as the leaders to keep talking it, to keep telling people, this is, if this is what you want to do, it's up to you. And I was telling some people the other days that we are not expecting an angel in terms of a leader to come and lead our country. People sometimes, even committing yourself and subjecting yourself to an election, it's not an easy thing. I can tell you for sure. It's more peaceful. You finish your show today, you have done your job the way you're supposed to, you go back home, relax, wait for your kids, do whatever you need to. Tomorrow you wake up and do the same. But this kind of a job we do, sometimes it takes a lot of grace to know how to deal with the politics, to know how to deal with people, to know how to support them, to know how to do it. I agree. So sometimes I'll say,
Spice up your life.
An angel to come and lead this country. So people will have their own faults here and there as leaders. They'll make mistakes here and there. But at the end of the day, are we moving towards the right direction?
That's a good note.
That's why I'm saying,
And you can never exhaust these things. But thank you for sharing your insights. It might actually be the first time that we've been told that geography in this case really doesn't matter. But that it is the will of the people that must actually be actualized. Thank you very much for being here this morning. John Njuguna Kawajiko has been our guest this hour, the Member of Parliament for Kiamba constituency. We'll take a break and come back after the top of the hour. Good morning.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire Dennis Aseto. Advocate PLO Lumumba's linked Raila Odinga's defeat in AU due to Kenya's poor diplomacy. In an interview with Radio Maisha, Lumumba criticized Raila's campaign, explaining that the slogans used by Raila's faction implied threats rather than service delivery compared to his victorious rival, Mahmoud Yusuf of Djibouti. Lumumba says Kenya's tradition of being known as a politically authoritarian nation also contributed to Raila's defeat.
Watu walikuwa wanacheza sijui tawala Kenya, tawala Afrika, tawala Addis Ababa. Mtu Biblia imetuambia usimuite mtu yeyote babako. Ila Mungu aliye mbinguni. Tunamuita mtu baba, tunamwabudu mtu. Na vitu kama hivyo vinaleta athari kwa taifa. Ndugu, kitu ambacho kinafanyika kwa hivi sasa, watu watuheshimu kama Wakenya. Tulikuwa ni watu ambao tunaheshimika. Na Wakenya wa kawaida ni watu wazuri tu. Sisi ni wachapaji kazi, lakini wanasiasa wetu.
Kakamega Governor Fernandez Baraza is now demanding that the bill introduced in Parliament by former Malava MP Maluli Njendi for the payment of village elders be passed. Speaking in Malava, Kakamega County, the governor said that the elders are public servants who serve the nation at the grassroots level and therefore should be paid like other employees. He has called on the government to increase the monthly allowance of the elders, which is currently 2,000 shillings.
Ningependa kuomba wabunge wetu ya kwamba ule mswada ambao mheshimiwa Malulu alikuwa amepeleka pale bungeni wa kusaidia Makuru Kefu kaweze kupata mshahara for the memory of our departed brother. Ningependa kuomba wabunge let us fast track ule mswada ili tuweze kumkumbuka mbunge wetu kwa sababu alikuwa mtetezi wa wale watu wa chini sana.
Alikuwa ameleta bill katika bunge ya kusema kwamba village elders angalau serikali wapatie kitu kidogo, na hiyo bill ningesihi wabunge wenzangu, hiyo bill kufe, hiyo bill kuwe live, village elders serikali wapatie kitu kidogo kwa niaba ya the late Malulu Njendi.
Residents of Voi, Taita Taveta County have raised concerns about the move by area MP Abdi Chome to ask President William Ruto to construct a kindergarten class during his visit to the area Friday last week. Expressing their anger, they said there are important projects that the MP should have asked the President for and not a class which is the responsibility of the MP to build using the NGCDF funds. Abdi Chome and Botate MP Peter Shake surprised residents by asking the President for small projects such as paving roads and building a kindergarten class.
Your Excellency, nataka kukuomba, sitaisha kukuomba. Ndani ya pale unaona yale mabati, iko nasari ya miaka mingi ambayo imekaa haitafanana na haya mazingira. Roho yako ikiguswa, watujengee, waifanye ile nasari ya Salaudin iwe modern, na sisi tujihisi mradi huu umetufikia.
To the court's end, the hearing of the murder case against rally driver Maxine Wahome is set to resume at the High Court in Nairobi today now. In March 2023, Maxine was charged with the murder of her boyfriend Asad Khan. It is alleged that on December 12th at Preston Apartments on Ole Tok Road, she murdered Asad Khan. She denied the charges before Justice Lillian Mutende. Last time the matter was in court, a doctor from Avenue Hospital told a Nairobi court that rally driver Asad Khan died from multiple organ failure. The failure, he said, was caused by excessive bleeding. He said the wound on his leg could not be classified as a fatal injury. The injury on his leg wasn't the automatic cause of death, but multiple organ failure. Asad died on December 19th, 2022 while receiving treatment in a hospital. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's critical that people pay taxes. But then taxation has to have a limit. When you start overtaxing people beyond certain limit, then this is now we call robbery with violence.
We are all struggling, but we don't show. If you're not doing well, shame on you. But you have to say, I'm broke and I'm struggling. We are not okay until everybody is okay.
We are pretending to have political parties. Why don't we just be honest? And we say, these are the Luyas, these are the Kambas, these are the Kikuyus, and we find ourselves in Kenya.
With politics and leadership, no matter what you do, there will always be a complaint. There will always be the assumption that you're either stealing or you're not doing things right. As a leader, don't fear. If you know you're doing the right thing, you've thought about it, you've got an expert advice, do it, then understand later.
This country, we don't need prayers. Prayers is between you and God. Good governance and thinkers who care about the country and not their stomach.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It is 9:06 and into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Monday morning, into the first show of the month of March. And even as we do get into one conversation that has been taking the world, not just Kenya, not just the region, but the world by storm in terms of what you should be able to do with what many have called a recreational drug, which many have called an addictive drug, an illegal one in very many cases. Is it time that the conversation was opened up? And that's what we'll be talking about at this hour. But we'll give you a little bit more in terms of introduction for that in just a while. Kenya Commercial Bank has a foundation. The KCB Foundation started a 2-year program. The program started as a result of seeing the gap in society where young people between the ages of 18 and 35 introduced into the job market did not have the requisite skills that they needed to be able to make the connection either to a job or to be able to start a business. So what happens? They said, okay, fine, let's get you guys to apply. You apply and we plug you in to a 6-month training program across different industry and sector, whether it was masonry, construction, beauty and design, the culinary arts, across board. So we put you in that program for 6 months. You come out on the other side of it, and then we tool you and kit you to be able to start off, whether it is your own business or whether it is joining someone in terms of getting a job or getting employment. So the 2-year program pulled out all the stops to make sure. And so far, 150,000 young people have gone through the program. 267 million shillings in terms of loans have been given out to ensure that people can be taken care of. And today, another cohort is taking in applications, and you also can be part of that. What you need to do to find out more information about it, go to the website www.kcbgroup.com/foundation. CT,
yes,
you have a pep in your step and a giggle in your gaggle. A giggle in your wiggle. I was going to say gaggle, but okay. I reckon that it's because you have this great news and information about how we can all get a mortgage.
Yes, there's a little detail about how it is you can actually buy a house. Let's simplify it.
Yeah.
Mortgage, money you get, you apply for.
Yes.
You qualify. You then have money to buy a house of your choice. Diamond Trust Bank are saying they have just the right plan for you. Meaning, they have mortgages, and they're saying, if you wish to find out more about it, you can either visit any of their branches, or you can actually send an email. The email is simple: mortgages@dtbafrica.com. But let's take a few steps back.
Okay.
This mortgage that I'm speaking of, what is it all about? One, Diamond Trust Bank is saying they'll offer you up to 105%. And you say, yes. Well, there are categories. If you happen to be employed, you stand a chance of being eligible. If you're self-employed, if you're in the diaspora, you can get up to 80%. And then they're saying, look, now let's put a little icing on this particular cake. The interest we'll charge you is 9% if it's a mortgage for 10 years, 9.75 it's a mortgage for 25 years. And they're saying that in addition to this, we do not have any hidden charges, and neither do we have penalties if you pay in advance of the schedule that you have. Now, to verify what I've just said, let's go back to what I started off with. Go to any Diamond Trust Bank branch or send an email to mortgages@dtbafrica.com.
Wonderful. Wunderbar. And that's what we actually should be looking into as you start to have those conversations. And we never see where CT's diamonds will drop tomorrow. But even as we get into the final hour of this conversation this Monday, we're having a conversation about why, or rather, are Kenyan doctors ready to prescribe medical cannabis? Okay, Dr. David Okello is a healthcare professional, and he joins us this hour. He would have joined us with Mutua Mutuku, who unfortunately has had a bit of an accident this morning. So, I mean, our best wishes for him. But we will have this conversation either way, and we get into it. So, Dr. Okello, good morning, and karibu sana to the Situation Room.
Thank you.
Welcome. Before we get into some of these conversations, will probably take us to a high. Let us look at today's proverb. We'll give you a little bit of work as we get into it. CT has proverbs from the continent every week. He's in a different country, and he'll tell us what that proverb is, and then you can tell us how you would interpret that. Is that okay?
All right.
Fantastic.
Yes, our proverbs for the whole this week comes from the land of honest people, Burkina Faso. Okay? It's really a simple proverb. If you look for trouble, you will not miss it.
If you look for trouble, you will not miss it.
Yeah, something like that, yes.
I would interpret it as if you're looking for something, you'll always find it. So whether it's trouble, whether it's something that is beneficial, but as long as you're looking for it, you'll find it.
Straight and to the point.
Yep. Sometimes it doesn't need any more depth than that.
Nope. That depth is deep enough. It doesn't have to be like Tanganyika deep. No.
Yeah. If you're looking for it, you will find it.
That's it.
All right. So, Dr. Kello, you're in the hot seat of the Situation Room, and this is a hot topic. But let's just start with a little bit in terms of definitions. Cannabis, when we hear it, we think, it's marijuana, people getting high, and then that's it. But over the years, the conversation has developed towards where we understand and we know that healthcare professionals around the globe have been using medical marijuana or cannabis for medical interventions. One of the big ones being pain management and things like that. How did we get into this place where we are today, where we have previously seen, cannabis, marijuana as a recreational drug, an illegal one in many parts, to the point whereby now we are saying it's very possible for you to use it for medical interventions? And can we use the two interchangeably when we say cannabis and when we say marijuana? Let's do that first intro as we get into it.
All right, thank you so much. Let me start with introductions. I'm Dr. David Okello. I am a researcher and innovator within the mental health space, where I innovate AI-based solutions for mental health care and alternative therapies. And I'm launching Healthy Minds Africa Collective Initiative to drive this conversation forward. So now, on the conversation of cannabis, you want to call it...
Let me just pause, Daktari. Are you Daktari of medicine and syringes, or are you Daktari of reading and PhD?
Right now, just a general practitioner. However, I am working my way towards a PhD.
You are Daktari of Shindano?
Yes.
Okay, right. Very good. Now, please carry on. Yes.
Yes. So now, medical marijuana or cannabis. Now, the conversation began somewhere before 1920, when Kenya was fighting for independence. And cannabis or marijuana was commonly used among the freedom fighters, and the colonial power saw it as it made them rebellious towards the colonial rule, and they wanted to fight for independence. So during that time, it wasn't that cannabis was being smoked left, right, center, as we would want to see it today. It was a process that was being done by the medical, the herbalists or the spiritual team, which were in my mother tongue we call them Ajwaga. So they were the ones who were administering this. It wasn't for everybody, and public smoking is not African, even for cigarettes. Public smoking is not an African culture. So now, when it was criminalized in 1920. We dropped the conversation on cannabis and everything around it. Even research stopped. And the drug was portrayed as in a negative image. And the community decided to, over time, agree with the notion that the drug is bad. However, countries like Israel, where we have the father of cannabis, from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, Dr. Raphael. He's the one who inspired the conversation on medical cannabis, and he was able to start that research out of curiosity. And we have seen published research that has shown that medical cannabis is able to provide treatments for certain conditions that today we are still struggling to manage. For example, Parkinson's disease and epilepsy, and even with HIV, it works for those who have the neuropathic pain. The neuropathic pain with HIV can be caused by HIV itself. It can also be caused by the ARVs that they're using. And
sorry, repeat that again. What can be caused by the ARVs again?
Neuropathic pain.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
So now, as right now we have medications that we've been giving, but not all of them are working as we want. And if we are able to complement what we already have with this new research that can support, then I think there should be a direction that we need to go as a country.
Which is this new research? Because what you have given us is a breakdown of, a general view of what should be done, what historically was done. But you do know that there's some myths that needs to be demystified around cannabis, that as a listener who's listening and watching today, they might want to hear you speak to those, including, of course, you've mentioned mental health, which a lot of people believe has a direct link to the uptake of cannabis. So is it a matter of the uptake, the amount you take? How many myths can you demystify for us just at the beginning of this conversation in relation to cannabis?
Okay. Now, with regards to research, first of all, we must acknowledge that almost all of them have been done in foreign countries. None has been done in Africa because of our policies. And we have seen the way it has been able to treat epilepsy and Parkinson's disease. And research has been published in public domain. And anybody who is interested can Google and find research on medical cannabis. And they're able to even...
Google, there's a lot of information out here. And some people cannot really, verify their sources. Could be another misguiding line.
So now, with research on medical cannabis, now looking at the endocannabinoid system, This has been published by foreign universities, including the University of Jerusalem, but nothing from Kenya.
Oh, okay.
And there is an endocannabinoid system that works for the cannabis. And this system is not currently being taught in medical school. And this system is a cell signaling system, and it is involved in communication between cells, and it is able to affect our appetite, pain, immune system, memory, emotions, and all that.
Hang on a minute, so that we can understand this. What did you call it?
Endocannabinoid system.
Endocannabinoid system exists where? Outside of the body, within the body, for those who are using it? What are we talking about here? Just so we can make it plain and understandable.
Okay. So the endocannabinoid system exists in the human body, including some other animals, and it is a system just like the nervous system, the cardiovascular system. So now this system has enzymes, it has receptors, just like any other system. And when you talk about enzymes and receptors, these are substances, proteins that are within the body that are able to enable molecules to pass from one side of the cell into the other. So now, every human being, whether they use cannabis, whether they do not use cannabis, they have the endocannabinoid system, and the endocannabinoid system has something called endocannabinoid, and this endocannabinoid is the body's marijuana. It is the body's cannabis. It is the body produces its own cannabis, like
for what?
And this cannabis-like material, which is the endocannabinoid, it affects our emotions, it affects our mood, and
the stuff that we call like oxytocin, the same thing that is a mood enhancer.
Yeah,
that when I have a good feeling, oxytocin levels in my system rise. Is that what we're talking about?
No, so now we are talking about something like that. So now with the endocannabinoids, it will enable release of the dopamine and the serotonin, and these are the hormones that are always low when it comes to matters depression and other.
Let's go through this a little bit slow, okay? So what we are saying is that your system already, as a human being, you already have these substances, the enzymes in your system that are going to create a feeling, a high or a low. The dopamine, the serotonin, the oxytocin, all of this already exists. And what it does is that it mimics the same feeling that you get when you ingest cannabis. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Okay. So it exists in you already?
Yes, it exists in you already.
So now, those who would make a case against using medical marijuana would say to you, you already have this system. Why would you want to introduce something else?
Yeah, that would be a very interesting argument. But again, in the human body, you already have insulin. So why do you want to give a diabetic patient insulin?
No, but in a diabetic patient, there is the blockage of the production of it. There is a blockage of the production of it. So, and if you have
it depends on the type of diabetes
or an insufficient supply, that's why you need to bring it in.
Yeah.
And in the same case, also with depression, when you have the imbalances in the serotonin, in as much as it's already in the body, but we now have to give you a medication for it. So now the argument is, in as much as it already exists within the body, the moment we have a disorder, it is depleted. Now when it is not there, it has to be replaced, and that is where the medical aspect comes in.
Okay. How long does it stay in the body? For example, a diabetic patient who, needs an injection of insulin, maybe it's regular, what are we talking about? Every day, every other day, you need to then, make sure that you have it. So if somebody, and that's the thing, that we can't divorce ourselves from the image. So what do? Do you, for lack of, I'm just gonna go colloquial here, do you smoke a joint when you are suffering from, depression? Is that what we're saying? Do that these are the conversations that people are asking. Are you going to smoke one every 24 hours? What's the dose? What are we saying?
But then if I may chime into this discussion, remember there's off-the-counter medication, which you can simply go and buy.
Yeah.
But
for diabetes,
are we then saying that you want marijuana to be at the point where it's an off-the-counter drug, or is it something that has to be prescribed?
Or is it for extreme special cases that must only be given by a medical practitioner?
Okay. So now, first of all, we must separate medical marijuana and recreational marijuana. With medical marijuana, you need evidence that it is working.
Okay.
And with medical marijuana, it has to be prescribed. And with medical marijuana, you do not have to smoke it. It has been processed into different, whether oil or a tablet or a syrup.
Okay.
And it comes with dosages. And in Kenya, I'm told that medical marijuana, these formulations already exist. However, it is only available to the who is who. And for those, the rest of the population, they probably get their supply illegally.
Okay.
And
Daktari, if we may pause, it is available, meaning the Pharmacy and Poisons Board have had a say in the availability in the country. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
So if they've had a say, then why then would it only be available to a few?
Okay. Right now, the regulations from the Pharmacy and Poisons Board are not so clear. That is why it's only available to a few. And that is why even the doctors and the other healthcare professionals do not want to touch on the subject, because hospitals will vilify you if you touch on the subject because of the regulations around it. However, the Pharmacy and Poisons Board allows that you can apply for a license and you are able to get medical marijuana into the country legally.
Let me ask the question. We are saying that there's a stigma attached to it.
Yes.
Okay. What is it that provides medical marijuana with direct competition?
Pardon?
What drugs or what types of drugs compete directly with marijuana for the same purpose, the same function that marijuana is supposed to actually achieve?
One would be the pain medications.
Okay, let me talk about, let me use a broad term. Synthetic medication. Would there not be a direct threat?
Yes. Now, for the synthetic medications for pain, we would say the coming in of medical cannabis would ruin their market, and you definitely will not expect the big pharma to support this at the moment, and that is why we have to tell the people that there is something that we need to look at. Because if you look at medical research history, for a condition like syphilis, we know that right now syphilis we have stage 1 to stage 4. But how did we know that we have stage 1 to stage 4? It was through research. And how did this research occur? They denied the Africans medication. So when the Africans were suffering and dying, they were able to record. So now, when this thing is still new, why don't we able to change the conversation?
The Tuskegee experiment, it is quoted widely when you talk about research ethics. When it is Africans is right, but it was the black people in a place called... And that research took place over several decades, not weeks, decades. So he's right. They had syphilis, they were denied medication, so one could actually understand. And it's given as an example of what one ought not to do with research. And that's where the research ethics and the protection of human subjects and the need for this to be strictly adhered to, that's how it came into being, among other things that were considered. The reason why I brought in the discussion of competition is this. Marijuana and its usage has been in existence for as long as probably humanity has been in existence.
Yes.
Okay? And even in this same US of A, in the 1800s, leading up to the 1900s, it was used until a law was passed that then restricted to the point of almost prohibiting it. So, if you understand how laws are passed in many countries, you'd ask, who sponsored this law? Who is it who wanted? Because it was used, and there's documentation of the benefits that were derived from the use.
Yeah.
But immediately that came into being. We didn't have the term big pharma then. No, we didn't. What then replaced it? And what has continued to replace it? It is what now it's now what we call big pharma. And it's not just marijuana. It has to do with herbalism.
Mm-hmm.
Diseases that were treated simply using herbs. Suddenly, there were all these questions about the efficacy of it.
Right.
And the evidence that is required for you to determine their contraindicatives, and languages that just puzzle you and just fill your mind. Now, we come to marijuana and the use of it. How do you get rid of the stigma? Because everything in this country that has to do with marijuana has to do with potheads. People who are either talking to themselves or picking up paper and talking to the paper.
Right.
Yes.
Or in a den full of smoke.
Yes. And
talking to the ancestors.
And talking about to people who nobody else sees and that sort of thing.
Hallucinations.
No. What do you mean?
I went extreme.
If you don't see the people, that's your problem.
So now changing the conversation around the stigma.
Yeah, it's around the stigma, yes.
Yeah, now changing that conversation requires that we look at the policies around medical marijuana.
Yes.
And when we're looking at the policies, we'll be looking at the doctors pushing this conversation forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
But isn't that the conversation that you do have, though? And it doesn't really matter, if you're talking about new interventions, because this is not a nascent conversation. It's been there for some time. Right? But look at conversations that we can have comfortably today, whereby in an African context, you can have a conversation about HIV, which is hinged primarily on sex. You could never say the 3-letter word in the open. You would have to be under the bed with the curtains closed in the dead of night to even say the word sex out loud. But we can today, in medical spheres, have a conversation about HIV and its interventions. Now, when you talk about the removal of stigma from something like CT talking about potheads in a den full of smoke somewhere, it's going to take some time for people to then start to resonate with, can we start to have the conversation that this cannabis can actually be used for pain management? Are those steps starting? Are we starting to have even the thought that we can, do something with it?
Okay. First of all, we must be able to break that stigma from among the doctors themselves.
Okay.
Because doctors are afraid of being vilified when they bring up the discussion on cannabis, because the cannabis drug has already been vilified among the community. However, Pharmacy and Poisons Board have been doing some policy regulations, and we'll be expecting them to bring something soon. However, as we are waiting to get there, we want to be able to work with patients who already understand what medical cannabis is and are already willing to work with medical cannabis. And based on their experiences, we will be able to gradually change the rest of society. Because that is a conversation we cannot spark up today and expect people to change the conversation today. That is definitely going to take us probably 3 to 5 years.
If I may ask, we have an institution called the Kenya Medical Research Institute. They even have a center for traditional medicine. Now, is this not the sort of conversation that maybe I should be asking them, but let me ask you. Is this not the sort of conversation that an institution like that would be best perhaps to assist in having, because it's what they do?
Actually, you are very right. That is what they do, and they should actually be doing it. But however, I've looked at what we have with research on medical cannabis in Kenya, and it is a new conversation that has started recently, and it is being driven by foreign organizations and foreign entities, and there are no Kenyans involved. So if the National Research Institute in Kenya can come up and take up this conversation, then begin offering research grants for it, then I believe we would be able to move faster. Because for the people, they would also want to read research that has been done and published in Kenya, other than just telling them everything foreign.
Okay. Well, it's a conversation about whether we're actually ready to have the conversation about medical cannabis in Kenya at this point. And we're having the conversation this morning with Dr. David Okello, and we'll come back after this break and continue with that. It's 27 minutes to 10.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with Spice FM.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi is going at 21. While Mogadishu at 29 is sunny, Addis Ababa at 20 sunny as well. It's partly sunny at 28 in Lagos, with Kinshasa cloudy at 25. We're looking into a cloudy Beijing at 8 degrees and 1 degree and sunny in Paris, and it's bang on 0 and clear in London, -5 in a mostly clear New York.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
All right, coming out of traffic hour this morning, and we're seeing that it won't be too bad moving on out. There's still some traffic just past Survey on the Thika Superhighway as you find your way through towards the Pangani underpass. But before that, I think we've done well. Coming out of Westlands on Waiaki Way, bits and bobs here and there as you approach the city. But I think we should be fine for the most part of it. The Southern Bypass looks pretty good now. We're not going to have too much of an issue. And coming off of Ngong Road, getting towards the CBD, we should be fine. We're going to keep an eye on all of this morning. Getting through Monday should be easier here on out. Talk to us through it. SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Dr. David Okello is our guest this hour, and we are looking at, are Kenyan doctors ready to prescribe medical cannabis? And that is the question as we come into this hour. Are they? Are doctors? Has there been? I mean, because by the time you coming from this big pharma conversation that we've had, I mean, just using an example of COVID was fast in terms of finding a vaccination. I mean, really fast, until many even thought, well, was this something that was done before because they knew that COVID was coming? Because usually when you have these trials, it takes time. It's 5-10 years before you can actually come up with some. There's some vaccines, for example, we still don't have vaccines for. They're still in trials, right? And the research that goes into it is quite something. So by the time we ask the question that are medical doctors in Kenya ready to start prescribing cannabis or start to use it, medical cannabis, has there been enough in terms of research? Has there been enough in terms of the participants of clinical trials, for example, to ensure that, number one, it's safe, it's accepted, there's no stigma, and that, it's readily available? Have the safeguards been set up? Has the Poisons Board been involved? These are all many questions that come into place before we ask, because at the end is the doctors and the patients. There's this entire process that must take place before you put something out into the medical market that is safe, is accepted, and is not stigmatized.
All right, thank you so much. Now, in the UK, in Australia, this conversation on medical cannabis and research has been ongoing, and they already have formulations in form of tablets for it. And in Kenya, we do not have research on this subject, and that is something we need to start. However, with introducing the conversation to the doctors, whether they are ready to prescribe it or not. Right now, I wouldn't say they are ready to prescribe it because they do not know what it is and they do not know how it works. However, we need to start with the Pharmacy and Poisons Board so that we can set up regulations for it, so that even when we want to use it for research, the people must understand how it will be cultivated and who will be involved in the study, and what our objectives will be for the study. And once we have African Kenyan patients who are willing to work with Pharmacy and Poisons Board on this, then we will be able to have research material that we can publish and guide government in matters policy around medical marijuana. Because at the moment, Kenya has nothing to start with except for foreign-based research.
All right. Someone would ask, where is the stigma originating from? Is it the public? Is it the patient? Or is it the doctors? Just a simple question. Who's stigmatizing at this point?
Stigma originates from all the three. Stigma originates from government because of the policies they've passed. Stigma originates from the community because they have been brainwashed over the years that this drug is bad and it is only associated with bad people.
Is it being brainwashed, or are some actually experiencing their keen involved in uptake of this, of course abusing it, and the result of it? Or is it merely just what you're saying, them being brainwashed, really?
I think it's just being brainwashed, really, because we have normalized smoking cigarettes, we have normalized drinking alcohol, yet we do have research published in Kenya and even outside Kenya that shows the dangers of these drugs, but somehow they've been accepted by society because of how they have been marketed over the years. But for marijuana, it has always been placed in the negative image every time it is mentioned.
Speaking of this access being to the who knows who, because you do know that there are people who still abuse Piriton.
Yeah.
Just that tablet, and they just want to overdose and sleep like a sleeping pill. The people who would abuse all these other medical, authorized medicine, and abuse it. And maybe that could be a concern, because if the public is not sensitized enough, and as much as doctors should be sensitized, they might still get a chance to use what should have been used for positive to abuse it for negative. Do you think this could be a possibility if not well checked?
I don't think that would be a concern, because already everybody is using the drug. Much of when I interview my patients.
Yes.
When you sit down with a patient and you ask, do you take cigarettes, do you smoke? They'll always tell you no. But when you speak with somebody in a language they understand, you begin to understand the crisis of the matter. And when marijuana has, over the years, been associated with everything bad, people have seen it as bad, and anybody who talks about it, I remember Professor Bell once initiated a conversation on it, and I think he was labeled crazy. However, if as a country we want to be able to lead in medical research in Africa, because that is something that much of Africa is not doing, because research is underfunded in Africa. But if as Kenya we can begin leading the conversation on medical cannabis and research around medical cannabis, then I think Kenya will be the go-to blueprint for Africa when it comes to matters medical.
So I think that research question then that you've talked about then is extremely important, especially when we talk about a mental health burden on the country that is equatable to a big malaria burden, a big HIV burden. We think of mental health in a lot of cases as, just, maybe a subsidiary to illness, but it is an illness, and it is hitting on quite a large number of the population. So in as much as we see research being done in the fields of malaria, of HIV, of cancer, for something that's gripping the nation so much, why don't we see as much research done into interventions for mental health, like this, for example? Okay.
We must first start by acknowledging that mental health has been sidelined in discussions in almost all countries over the years, and that is why mental health is where it is right now. And even for the people, when you mention mental health, they stigmatize it, because the public facilities for mental health, when you look at them, you just see a prison. The services are not welcoming. And now that stigma, then you now bring in an alternative therapy like medical marijuana, cannabis, that has also been stigmatized over the years. So we are bringing two stigmatized things at the same time to a community that is not aware of what is happening. And a community that is already addicted and suffering from drug abuse. And we cannot put medical cannabis aside, fearing drug abuse, because we already have abuse existing. And even for prescription drugs like the opioids like tramadol and morphine, they're already being abused even by patients and by doctors. However, that should not be the reason why we are stopping medical cannabis, because in as much as the opioids are being abused and the anesthesia is also being abused, we haven't stopped using them on patients. Yeah, but we should be able to make regulations around it and provide support to persons who are dealing with abuse, because abuse of a drug, that is now a mental health condition, and that needs to be treated as such.
But Gary, who's leading this conversation that seems to have stigmatized? I said it before and I'm repeating it. Because traditionally, forget the Europeans, the Chinese, here on this continent, even the community I come from, cannabis was used recreationally. The instances where I have been told it was used medicinally. And the people who consumed it you had to be of a certain age, and it was for specific purposes. Meaning, that is what you call regulation. It was regulated. The abuse goes out of what we call regulation, and abuse is always there, but it was understood. The stigma did not exist, not really, because it was understood. It was the same with alcohol, consumed at a certain time, consumed within certain age brackets. Again, alcohol has never been stigmatized, but the stigmatization has crept in over time because of the abuse. Now, what I'm saying is this. A conversation such as this one, taking into account that the conversation of the stigma is fairly profound, must look at what it is that cannabis has already been used for, even before we started talking about medical cannabis. It isn't as though cannabis has not been used in medicines. It has. It's just that conversation isn't loud enough. So, if it has been used, and the drugs that it has been used in have been prescribed and have been used and have been found to be useful, it points to a simple fact that its use is actually not in doubt. So what is it that is in doubt? Its safety, regulation, really. How? If things which are infinitely more potent, because if you look at what we now call opioids, the side effects that you get from some of these synthetic medication are far, far more adverse than you would get. And modern research is tending to tell you that cannabis would probably have the same sort of effect, the same effect that these opioids have. Again, the conversation I had before, who is it who produces opioids? Cannabis is addictive, but the degree to which opioids are addictive are God knows how many times more than cannabis. So, again, you are talking about the promotion of something which is far more dangerous, far more adverse, and far more acceptable, and yet the dangers are clear, it is known. And you're talking about a product whose dangers are known, but cannot even compare with what has been accepted and what is even sold and what is even prescribed. Now, surely, is that not a lopsided conversation?
Definitely. We are being ostriches hiding our heads in the sand.
Yes.
And this is a conversation we need to start as Kenya, because the rest of Africa is not going to start it. So if we can start it as Kenya, so that we can have research published in Kenya, then that would be a good way to go. Because if you look at HIV and the ARVs, much of the research we relied on was from the foreign countries. And by the time we began research on HIV in Kenya, it had taken quite a while. And scientifically, the effect of drugs is not the same among the races. So
no, it is not.
Yeah. So if it works for a white man within a particular dosage, it will probably not work for an African within that dosage.
Or an Asian, for that matter.
Yeah. Exactly. So you'll probably have to raise it or lower it. Yeah. So if we cannot do research among ourselves and get to know the truth and move forward, then it is going to be hard for us. We'll now have to be relying on other people's information which might not work for us.
And Dr. I agree with you, because we saw what happened during COVID. There are people who expected that Africans would respond differently to that particular virus compared to how it happened in the European countries. But that aside, look at this. For somebody who really is interested in this conversation, in as far as the medical side is concerned, there are certain people who will need this cannabis more than other people. Chronic diseases, people who go through very severe pain. I just wanted to paint that picture for me, who are the first patients who we should move with speed for, all right, as a country, as a continent, that really need this solution to be reached very quickly. Because I'm sure as you're speaking, the who knows who are particularly using it on their patients who seemingly are getting more reprieve than others that we're speaking. Which patients are you looking at, according to the research you've interacted with?
So now, according to the research I've interacted with, we are looking at patients who have chronic, the non-communicable diseases, the chronic conditions. And in as much as today somebody who's listening might say they do not have a chronic condition, but we are all candidates for a chronic condition at one point in our lives, whether we are young or old, but at one point in our lives, we will depend on medication to stay alive. And when that time comes, you want to take medication that works for you and your pocket and has lesser side effects as compared to what already exists. And there was this patient in the UK, a child who had a rare form of epilepsy and was always convulsing. And when this patient was started on medical marijuana, the convulsions disappeared. The doctor that was attending to that patient said that in the waiting room, just waiting to see the patient already had 3 convulsions, and that is serious. They had been on every medication available and never worked. So when this patient was put on medical cannabis, within 24 hours, there were no convulsions and the patient was okay. And that patient stimulated the conversation on policy change for medical marijuana in the UK. So if we can learn from those and inspire a conversation here in Kenya, so that persons who have chronic conditions and have been on one painkiller after another. You find somebody's bag, you think they have money, but it is just a packet of painkillers, but they are not working. So now if this person can be told that, now we have this drug, would you want to try it? And they say yes, if they consent and it works for them. Then they go out to the community and say, by the way, I tried this and it worked. Would that not be a good thing? And will that not be able to inspire change among the community on medical cannabis and what it is all about? Because the late MP who inspired this conversation on medical cannabis was suffering from cancer at the time.
Kibera?
Yeah. And that MP, I think he was probably able to access it. I'm not sure. But if he was suffering from cancer and was advocating for medical cannabis so that it's able to assist with the side effects of cancer and its treatment. And if it's able to work, then I think we should be able to offer people better way of living, even when they are terminally ill. There is no guarantee that the chemotherapy and radiotherapy will reverse your cancer at stage 3 or stage 4. Even if we took you for surgery, probably it will not. But what if we are able to help you manage that pain without putting you through a basket of medications? So if we are able to offer you medical marijuana that is able to make you live your life peacefully, even as you wait to demise, is that not a better position to place a patient than to pack them with unnecessary medications that we know are not working, but are just contributing to the side effects that they're already suffering from?
You saying that somebody should die happy.
Yeah, I believe in people dying happy, not people dying sad and in pain. Because when they die sad and in pain, that pain is transferred to the family who is also supporting you, and it becomes a very hard moment for most people. I
imagine. I think that it's necessary to debunk this idea in the minds of people that what we're essentially saying is that the way you would go into, clinic and get an injection, or that you would go to a pharmacy and get over the counter, that there's no little smoking room where people are going to go to and get their dose of medical cannabis to sort out their issue. I think we need to separate the two for it to be clear in people's minds, because those questions keep coming. That are we encouraging people to go smoke? I mean, colloquialism again, but are we encouraging people to go and smoke a joint? You had said it before that we're talking about the presentation being different of the medication, but can you do that again, just for understanding across board?
Yes. So now, one thing we must understand is that when we are advocating for medical cannabis, we are not saying that people should be allowed to smoke left, right, center, because that is not African. And smoking itself is dangerous. And when we allow for medical cannabis, it allows for research into preparing formulations that are safe and even much more effective, and with the required dosages that are effective for the African community. So the joint, as it is, when you roll up a joint, you smoke it. One, you do not know the quantity of cannabis that is in that joint, and two, you're smoking it to get high, and not smoking it because you have a condition that it is treating. Then over time, that will be a problem for you. It will create a problem for you.
Does it take us back to that conversation that your body already has some level of it, and if you're just but smoking it to increase it into your body, it's going to get to some extreme severe composition in your body? Does it? I'm trying to think like a doctor here because there's an amount you said that the body does produce.
Yes.
So those who smoke it when they don't really need it, it's just by being detrimental for them. Maybe you need to explain that to them, because I'm seeing a lot of conversation in the comment section as well.
Yeah. So now when you smoke it and you don't need it because your body already has it, and you do not have a disorder that is interfering with its production, then with those people, over time they will lose that sense, that happiness that they always have, and they will always be dependent on the drug for happiness.
So you become depressed again?
Yes, it will now get you depressed, and that will now stimulate the bipolar affective disorders for most people. Yes.
Thank you, Doc.
So, where would be the next step in this conversation in terms of what do you see happening next, where people are now involved in saying let's bring in alternative? It is an alternative, away from the traditional interventions that folks have used before. What would be the next step in this conversation?
Yeah, the next step in this conversation would be getting pharmacy and poisons board on the table, so that they are able to involve the people in formulating policies around research on medical marijuana, and they need to involve stakeholders. Right now, you need to register in the Pharmacy and Poisons Board website to get license, and it is only the pharmacists who are able to do that. The other cadres, in as much as they are the ones who are doing the prescription, they are not able to do that. So now, if we are able to involve the other regulatory bodies, the Medical Council, the Nursing Council, the Clinicians Council, and we are able to formulate policies so that the healthcare workers can follow, and we can begin collecting data on medical marijuana.
Do we have a legal framework that could support the things you're saying?
Yes, right now the Pharmacy and Poisons Board already has a legal framework, though it is a basic one. However, if they're able to build on that so that it can be more inclusive, because the basic one only works for pharmacists. But if it can now be more inclusive so that all these other regulatory bodies are brought in, then we will all be able to contribute to the discussion.
Is it true that this plant kind of grows in certain parts of this country just by itself, somewhere in the forest, and it's just a lot of it, massively? I had something like that. Is it somewhere around Western? Does it grow in surplus just itself, like any natural plant would grow?
I think so.
You think so?
Yeah, I think it should be able to grow like any other natural plant would grow. And Western has been known to grow cannabis. And there was a time I was in Vihiga for a project with the Call for Change, and we were targeting mental health in Vihiga County because the county government had pointed out that cannabis had caused chaos within the county. Yeah. So if people use cannabis when they don't need it, it results into chaos.
It will result into chaos, but it's actually but a natural plant.
Who decides that they don't need it?
So now, who decides whether they need it or they don't need it? That should be the doctor.
Yeah.
Consumers clearly believe they need it for whatever reason.
So if they can get a medical review, even in the UK, Australia, the medical cannabis, they get a prescription from they are reviewed and they get a prescription from the doctor so that they are able to access their medical cannabis. So if we are able to do the same here in Kenya, then we would be able to go a long way with the consumer so that they can move from the desire for recreational and move to medical.
Okay.
And from profit to treatment.
Yes.
Dr. David Okello has been our guest this hour, just looking at, whether, folks are ready to get into the conversations and the practice of, medical cannabis. There are very many wide conversations that are happening at the moment, but interesting to get into it at this point. So I want to thank you for being here with us this hour. Important that you did. Asante Sana. And those conversations, of course, continue.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being part of Kenya's biggest conversation, the first in the month of March, and we're getting through Monday into another week. Thanks very much for being here. And remind businesses, small, medium, and large, that Virtual FX is the platform that you want to use for cross-border payments, not having to worry about currencies, not having to worry about countries, not having to worry about downtime, not having to worry about inaffordable prices.
Spice up your life. Spice up your life.